The road to the CFL final has been well traveled by the Eskimos, Argonauts, Alouettes, and BC Lions. At the end of the exhausting trip, a chance to once again experience the emotional joy of winning the Grey Cup.
The following is a live presentation of CBC Sports.
With the Grey Cup in sight, will it be the receiving of Mitchell or the running of Pringle that makes the difference in this one? The Alouettes have a running machine in Mike Pringle, the first ever over 2,000 yards in the CFL. Tracy Ham does more than hand off to Pringle. He's a classic triple threat quarterback. No one caught more passes in '98 than the man with the golden hands, Daryl Mitchell. Providing the passes, they said it couldn't be done. Kerwin Bell, who replaced the legend, Doug Flutie. One of the toughest in the game. You'll get no argument from him, Doug Peterson. Game face, game eyes, firmly fixed by Alfred Payton. Anchoring the defense, and few are bigger, Demetrius Maxey. The fans are pumped, and so are we. From Montreal, the CFL's second season begins. It's the Eastern semifinal. The Alouettes hosting the Argos at Molson Stadium. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Armitage. Welcome to the CFL on CBC. The trip down the road to Grey Cup 98 makes two stops today, Edmonton and Montreal, and we've got them both well covered. One major sports theory gets a big test today. It's called momentum. The Alouettes seem to have it going in their favor. They've won 3 in a row. The Argonauts are going the other way. They've lost 3 in a row. But these are the playoffs. And in a one-game sudden death, winner-take-all situation, it's amazing what 60 minutes of solid football can do to turn things around and change history. This is how Hamilton, or Montreal, and Toronto got to the Eastern semifinal. The last regular season win for the Argos was a definite high. A victory over the Alouettes in Montreal. For the losers, the low was but a bump in the road. A week later in Skydome, Mike Pringle was unstoppable. 234 yards in the Alouettes turnaround. For the Argos, it was the beginning of a slippery slide into losing football. Lack of discipline and costly turnovers continued to plague Don Matthews and the Argos, blown out by the Ticats. In Game 17 for the Owls, it was business as usual. Pringle set a record, and the winning momentum continued against Winnipeg. When Toronto met Winnipeg, the wheels were still spinning. So how do you stop the losing momentum?
We've made the players aware of the problems that we've had in the last 3 games. We've redoubled our effort to prepare the football team and all of the players. We really feel good about all of that stuff at this point.
In the Alouettes' final game, they provided the Ticats with a wake-up call. What about Montreal momentum?
I think it's in the players' hands right now. We've had a good week of practice. and to just keep on playing the way we've been playing for most of the year.
Since 1946, the Owls and Argos have met only twice in the Eastern semifinal. The Owls have won them both in 1970 and again in 73, and that one was in sudden death overtime. Now let's make our way up to the booth here at McGill University and join the two Chris's, Walby and Cuthbert, for their thoughts on this Eastern semi. Guys?
Well, Steve, for my money, this is the most bitter rivalry in the Canadian Football League right now. Donald Smith told me earlier in the week, this is personal, and I think he speaks for a lot of the players.
Well, a lot of things have happening leading up to this game, a lot of animosity. We've talked about Peterson, Kerwin Bell, the Pringle head scrape, but I tell you what, it's the playoffs now, a whole new season. I know it's an old cliche, but we got to control those emotions right now. You can't put your team in trouble, and they gain a big play.
So many key players could be today. Glenn Young is an interesting story as he is inserted to stop the run.
Well, here's a guy been on the team for about 4 weeks now with special teams most of the time, but last week got his first start, responded 11 defensive tackles. Granted, Winnipeg ran the ball a lot, but he's going to see a lot of that today.
Offensively, you talk about Nigel Williams, who is another one of those receivers who could be a big player today. He dropped a couple of sure touchdowns in their last meeting. He says he's geeked today. Sometimes he gets too geeked, but watch for him. He could be a nice foil for Mitchell and Clement.
Well, big time. And then, of course, you got the old ingredient, the veteran, Mr. Savvy himself, Tracy Ham. Not only a great thrower, but a guy that can scramble. Some concern about his knee. Got a little banged up, missed last week, but he's ready to go today. And watch for big things when he's on his game.
Well, this will be the last year for Tracy Ham. It'll also be the last year for Michael Souls, and what a story he has been this year in a blocking role for Mike Pringle. He was the top Canadian last year and wants to end his career with another Grey Cup ring. So just a few of the names to watch for in what should be a very interesting afternoon. Steve?
Chris, there have been times in the past couple of seasons when you could have called it the Canadian Passing League. But times have changed. Mark Lee has more on the CFL's revamped running game.
The pass-happy CFL, 3-down football and a hail of bullets from the shotgun. But running back Mike Pringle is the antithesis, a bulldozing back, the first man to run for 2,000 yards in a CFL season.
Pringle, right side, 2,000
Pringle leading a revolution as offenses go back to an old mode of transportation. A throwback to a bygone era when the likes of George Reed and Willie Burton rammed the ball up the gut. Look at the make and model of today's leading running backs. Kelvin Anderson of Calgary, Ronald Williams of the Tiger Cats, and British Columbia's Juan Johnson, penetrating defenses designed to prevent the pass. Consider this statistic. In the last 4 weeks of this season, the most successful teams are the teams with the best running game.
It all goes back to like the scat button tells you, well, we can rush 3 and drop 8. But when you're running the ball, you can't do that, or drop 9. Well, you can't do that now. You have to play in the box, and a lot of teams are still dropping 9. And, okay, you won't let us throw, we'll run.
The passing game's not going. It's always good to have a good ground game. And I think that's very important in the playoffs as well, because it's going to be cold. Receivers don't have a hard time catching the ball, so it's going to be key to have a good running game. So me and Robert Drummond and the offensive line have to be on our game.
In the early 1990s, Doug Flutie helped to revolutionize CFL offense, passing to as many as 6 receivers on the field at the same time. In Edmonton, the Eskimos reacted by building a defense to stop Flutie and the rest of CFL offenses that were following Calgary's lead.
When we first originated this, what we do with the nickelback and all the things that we do, we did it to beat Flutie, because that was a guy that we knew we were going to play him basically in the finals every year, and we had to have the ability to try to beat him. And that's going to smaller people and quicker people. So now the trend's going back.
This season, teams that have had trouble passing have gone back to the run. Big backs have proved hard to bring down, especially by hard-hitting defensive backs converted to pass-covering linebackers.
Football will go in cycles. The offense will be ahead, the defense catches up and goes ahead, and then the offense has to come back. And everybody's going to the smaller linebackers. You got defensive backs playing linebacker. Well, sooner or later, they're going to have to start tackling people. And when you're asking a guy that's 180 pounds to step in there with a back that's Mike Pringle or Ronnie Williams or the people in BC, you know, Johnson and Drummond. That's big people to try to tackle, and you just, it's hard on them.
Mike Pringle has led this assault, and as the Argos try to adjust today by adding a bigger linebacker to stop him, the 2,000 man welcomes the challenge.
I don't care who lines up. I don't care who's in front of me, what size they are. If they feel they're too little, they need to go get bigger linebackers. I really don't care what the size of the people that line up in front of me are.
What's old is new again. Mike Pringle brings the run back into fashion in the CFL.
Carlos Huerta is back in the Argos lineup as a place kicker. He was 5 for 6 when Baltimore won the Grey Cup. He could be a key. It's the Eastern semifinal, the Als and Argos from Molson Stadium in Montreal. The fans are ready.
Was something that was lacking at the beginning.
Malvin Hunter is Edmonton's most outstanding player.
13 quarterback sacks on the season. No way Malvin Hunter is too old to play this game.
Again this year, Willie Pless led the league in tackles.
It'll be up to Willie Pless to chase down Damon Allen all afternoon. 8 sacks on the year for Pless.
Don Blair is Edmonton's only 1,000-yard receiver.
He's as good as they come when he wants to play. They need a big game out of Don Blair.
Quarterback David Archer endured adversity that would have crippled others.
He's played his best 2 games the last 2 weeks of the season, including last week, his best game as an Eskimo.
Well, I feel good about this football team. I have a lot of respect for these people, our players, and I feel good. I think we're ready to play. We're fortunate to be in this situation. Anybody would be. All you can ask for is an opportunity.
And here's another development for Edmonton. Derek McCready is back on the defensive line after missing 9 weeks with an injury. And, Glenn, that couldn't come at a better time considering the vaunted running attack they'll see from BC.
Absolutely. The BC Lions may have the best running combination in the league. Juan Johnson, over the 6-game winning streak for the Lions, has averaged 115 yards per game. Then when you throw in the running ability of Damon Allen and a healthy Robert Drummond, and they have the best trio in the league, Derek McCready is a good run stopper. That will help the Edmonton defense. But Derek McCready will also give Leroy Blue, Benny Goods, and Malvin Hunter rest. They can do a rotation in the defensive line. That'll help them.
How about David Archer, given more say in the play selection for the Eskimos, and that's paid off. He had his best game of the season last week, throwing 4 touchdowns against Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I thought David Archer played great 2 weeks ago in the second half of the Calgary game when he got to call some more of his own plays. I think he'll get that opportunity this afternoon, and that should help him.
Archer's brought unity back to that Eskimo locker room, but big question here in Edmonton, what kind of reception will he get from the fans should things go wrong? With more on that, let's go down to Caroline Corey.
Well, yes, Mark, what a year it's been for David Archer, and the fans certainly have not been impressed with his tenure here in Edmonton. Those old feelings for the game were stirred in David last year when he was in the broadcasting booth, and fans this year are wishing he hadn't traded that microphone in for a football. Dissension was reported to be at an all-time high on this Edmonton Eskimo team, but the worst part was when that dissension turned to desperation for number 18. Many times this season, David Archer felt the weight of the Eskimos' world squarely on his shoulders. Signs of frustration started to escalate when the television cameras caught him yelling at one of his favorite receivers, Don Blair. And then it all came crashing down when some unruly lions got under his skin. Archer leapt out of character, charging Derek Lewis to the ground. He drew the fans' ire in that game, didn't start the next game in Calgary, but was back in the saddle against Saskatchewan, leading his team to victory in the final game of the regular season. Perhaps now, David Archer is on target.
It seemed like the team came together a little bit at that time. It was a shame it's taken so long for that to happen, but at least it happened at some point during the year. And I think the guys kind of banded together finally. I was the focal point of a lot of the criticism of what was going on, but then it started to branch out and started affecting other players, and it kind of galvanized the team to a certain extent.
And that win over the Rough Riders saved the Eskimos organization from having their first losing season in 27 years. And of course, Archer was even named Offensive Player of the Week for his efforts. Let's head back to join Mark Lee and Glenn Suter.
Thanks, Caroline. And some observers here in Edmonton are saying that David Archer is playing for his career in this playoff game. Glenn, one final thought.
Well, I think Chris Walby's going to love this one because I think this game this afternoon comes down to the battle in the trenches. Whoever wins that war wins the game.
All right. It's the Eskimos and the Lions coming up in about 3 hours from now at 4 Eastern in the West semifinal. Now back to you, Steve, at Molson Stadium in Montreal.
Thank you, Mark. The fans are beginning to file in here to Molson Stadium for the Eastern semifinal, the Owls and Argos. Welcome back to Molson Stadium in Montreal and the much-anticipated grudge match between the Owls and the Argos. Now, back to the two Chris's in the booth, guys.
Well, Steve, the Argos and Alouettes feature CFL superstars who reflect their team's offensive personalities. Both are 2,000-yard men. Of course, the Alouettes are the #1 rushing team because of this man. Talked a lot about Mike Pringle, 234 yards in his last game against the Argos. This season averaged 5.9 yards a carry, but against Toronto, it was 6.9 yards a carry. And not much question, Chris, that as Pringle goes today, so go the Montreal Alouettes. On the other side, Daryl Mitchell.
Well, Daryl Mitchell has conversely had big games, some of his biggest, against the Alouettes. Here's a guy that's almost got 400 yards receiving in 3 games, 4 touchdowns. And the thing he does so well, when he catches that football, he breaks away from people and turns what might be a little gain into a big play.
So we'll be watching the 2,000-yard men this afternoon, Daryl Mitchell of Toronto, and of course, Mike Pringle of the Montreal Alouettes. Now, you know the offensive playbooks for both teams is about that thick, but it really boils down to one play for both teams that are signature plays. For the Alouettes, it's the counterplay.
Well, it most definitely is the counterplay. Mike Pringle loves this play. I'll tell you what, the key is these 5 big brutes up front, led by OKK and Virtual, Sutherland, Chu, and Fort. Now, on this play, what the counter is a misdirection play. Souls will go the opposite way the ball is going to be run. This play, they're going to run from the top of your screen to the left. Souls will go up to the top. He's going to make it look like they're running to the left. Virtual and OKK will come to the bottom of your screen. Virtual has to get the big key block. OKK will lead him through the hole. Pringle will do what he always does, but sits in the pocket of OKK, runs to daylight. Let's take a look at it in real life here. Souls up to the top of your screen, little misdirection. Virtual with a great kick-out block. OKK through the hole. Big yardage, big play.
Bread and butter for the Montreal Alouettes. And Glenn Young will be trying to stop that today. For Daryl Mitchell and the Argos, the signature play, the crossing pattern.
Well, he's got 2 big plays, but this is his favorite. He loves this play. All he's going to do is come up the field a little bit and cut it underneath. Try and hopefully get a little bit of congestion in there, what they like to call a rub or a pick play. Get 1 step on the defender, and he's gone. Let's take a look. He's going to come across, make it look like he's going, fold underneath. Stop right there. Look at the congestion. This is exactly what Daryl Mitchell wants to find. Gets a step on the defender, catches the football. Now, one thing that Daryl Mitchell does very well after he catches the football is he has another gear, another speed, if you would, and he turns it up and turns many of these catches into foot races.
That's why those yards after the catch are so important for Daryl Mitchell. But in recent games, they've really been jamming Mitchell as he comes across. It's been a lot more physical for Mitchell, but Mike Clements is back in the lineup today, and that will distract some of those defenders. They're going to have to worry about pinball as well.
The pinball and Mr. Playoff. I really consider a dark horse. You know who I'm talking about, Paul Mazzotti. Watch for him to have a big game.
We're just about set. Steve?
It's a hot ticket in Montreal, the Eastern semifinal between the Als and the Argos. And we've got it for you live, the CFL on CBC. Welcome back to Molson Stadium in Montreal. We're less than 5 minutes from the kickoff in the Eastern semifinal between the Alouettes and the Argonauts. Well, this may be a bit of a stretch, but this game might be compared to the family feud in Romeo and Juliet. You remember the Montagues and Capulets. There was bad blood, no love lost, a lot of hate. You could very well say the same thing about the Als and the Argonauts.
We just like to hit each other. I think Argos like to hit and we like to hit. And I think that's why so much blood and so much rivalry. The last couple of years we've come out on top most of the time. I think that fuels the fire a little bit. I go out there and just play the game as hard as I can. As long as we go out there and play with some intensity and play hard, I think we'll be all right.
Well, there is no love lost between these two teams. They know they'll probably meet in the playoffs somewhere along the road.
Oh, that's enough. That's enough losing to Toronto in the big game. It's our turn.
There's been some incidents, with Doug Peterson and myself. There is some rivalries between us and Montreal, but it all comes down to who goes out and executes and plays to their game plan the best.
And Mike just keeps coming. And in a way, maybe they'll take his helmet off and rub his head in the turf again and get him really upset. And we'll go for 300 yards. So that's what I'm hoping for.
You'll be pretty close to that, to say hatred. It's a strong dislike between the teams. I have friends on Toronto's team, but I have no friends on Toronto's team when I'm out on the field.
It has all the makings of a classic feud, this Eastern semifinal. And when they used to play in the Big O, that was the home for the Als. Weather was not a problem, of course, with the roof. But the weather is not a problem here at Molson Stadium on the campus of McGill University today. Temperature 3 degrees, no wind to speak of. It's gray, overcast, but when you stop to think of what it could be this early in November, it's a perfect day for football. Now up to the booth and the two persons. Guys, take it away.
Yes, Steve, it's one of those days where Walby would have had the sleeveless look, the big arms. I know you've been crunching numbers all week, the keys.
Well, this is the big thing. I mean, for Toronto offensively, you got to be patient. They're on a 3-game losing skid. They got to play smart. They've taken more penalties. On defense, make Pringle run east-west. We all know that he's a north-south runner. String him out, let the pursuit get him. Montreal, balanced attack is the key. They got to run, they got to throw the football. Don't rely just on Pringle. And on defense, the big thing, stop the act. That's not the animal, that's the yards after the catch.
Don Matthews says he's more motivated than ever because it's a rockier road this year to the Grey Cup, but believes that this team is capable of repeating this year. And there's Dave Ritchie, who bested Matthews head-to-head in the '94 Grey Cup, but has lost to him in the postseason the last 2 years. Fans on their feet here, the special team for Montreal encouraging them to rev up to get them going here this afternoon. And we're just about set as Tony Smith and Adrian Smith have dropped deep to accept the opening kickoff. This Eastern semi is underway, and there's Adrian Smith up across the 35-yard line. Kerwin Bell will lead the Toronto Argonauts out on offense, and he is extremely confident, Chris Walby. He can move the ball against Montreal. He says we've done it maybe better against Montreal this year than any other team we've faced.
Well, they have, and like I said, we talked earlier about being patient. These guys up front are going to have to give him the time, led by Willie Williams. The receiving and back crew, they got pinball Mike Clemens back, and he adds another dimension to this offense. As he goes, they will go.
They fake to Clements, the quick pitch to Mitchell, and he's downed immediately. The rookie Baron Miles, the top rookie in the East, and many of the Argos feel he's the best DB Montreal has, makes the first good defensive play.
Well, that's the key. Obviously, you want to get some stoppage on him early, but the front four got to put pressure on him, led by Doug Peterson, Alfred Payton, linebacking crew. Stephon Reed has stepped up another notch. He is quickly becoming one of the greats at linebacker. And of course, they are so happy, the Alouettes are, to get Tom Muir back in that safety position.
Extra DB in. We'll see a lot of that today. 2nd and 12. It's picked off, and Miles has it. Baron Miles out of Nebraska intercepts Kerwin Bell in his second pass of the game. The intended receiver was Dwayne Dimitrition, but Miles, who led the Alouettes in picks during the regular season, has his first of the playoffs.
Well, we're just talking about being patient. Don't force it. He tries to get it, just overthrows. Now remember, we're in the playoffs. They all know in the back of their mind that this could be the last game of the season. You want to be a quarterback after you throw an interception, they got plays. They got defensive linemen are going to love hitting you legally.
Alouettes start at the 42. Fake to Pringle, and Tracy Ham has Chris Armstrong. Armstrong inside the 20 and out at the 16-yard line. Chris Armstrong, Chris Walby, was not a factor in the regular season meetings between these two teams.
Well, he's only caught 3 passes in the last 2 games. Big thing to get him involved early. Here's that big offensive line we talked about with Mike Pringle, Uzomo Okeke leading it. He's the Eastern nominee for outstanding offensive lineman. Of course, we all know about Mike Pringle, 2,000 yards rushing. Michael Souls, his last game, last season.
First down. Ham, short drop, looks to the end zone, looks for Armstrong, touchdown. And he's already a factor today. A minute 34 in, and 2 plays after the Bell interception, Tracy Ham and Chris Armstrong put it in.
Well, you want to talk about limiting turnovers, playing smart football. Bob Matthews really echoed that yesterday. First time they get out, they throw an interception. What does Montreal do? They take advantage of it with the guy they haven't used very much, Chris Armstrong, 2 consecutive catches. This one for a touchdown, gives them an early lead, and what you've actually done is you put more fuel in that fire, and that fire is confidence, and Montreal is beaming with it right now.
There was a sense that the Argos would have to get off to the quick start today to take the ball out of Mike Pringle's hands, but that has not happened.
Well, the biggest thing we talked about, the fact is they run the ball. Look at this. This is just a nice move. Chris Armstrong takes it inside, breaks it away from Adrian Smith. He's wide open. Nice catch, nice throw. Everybody knows that Montreal is going to run the football with Pringle. What do? They come out 2 consecutive passes. This is what you got to do. That's how you mix it up. Then you get Pringle involved. Big things will happen.
Well, Chris Armstrong was their top receiver during the regular season, 1,162 yards, 5th in the Canadian Football League. However, just 6 catches in 3 games against the Argos. Quiet until today.
Well, you know what? We watched this the last time these guys played here when they got beat soundly by the Argonauts. And Tracy Ham, who came in the second half, tried to force the football to Armstrong and was throwing behind him time and time again. Well, they've worked on that. They've done extra time in practice, and you can see it paid off already.
Tony Smith. And he is nailed by Bruno Heppel as he crossed the 30-yard line. An 18-yard kickoff return and a flag down, and tempers already on display. Baron Miles comes back out on defense after the big pick.
Well, just a great play. I mean, this is just knowing where you got to be. And I mean, Baron Miles is playing in the center of the field right there. He's like an extra guy back there. Finds it, reads the quarterback, is sitting in the hole, as we talked earlier. Kerwin just forced the football a little bit, got a little high on him, got away from him, makes a nice interception, gives Montreal the ball, and they cashed in quickly.
Kelly Wiltshire called for the face mask on Doug Peterson, who was involved in the spitting incident with Kerwin Bell in the last meeting, and now the heat's on Bell early. Take to Clements, and Bell rolls out, has Daryl Mitchell, and he's cut down by Miles, who has been the most active player on the field in this first quarter.
Well, if you want to put a highlight film together right now, you've got to make him tackle, 2 on Mitchell, an interception. He's done it all right now, but I tell you what, nice job of the Montreal Alouettes taking away the shovel pass. That was designed to be a shovel pass to Pinball Clemens. They read it and stayed with him, forcing Mitchell to go to his outlet pass.
They got 5, and it's 2nd and 5. Bell looks right side. There's Pinball, and he got his feet down, and a completion. Now, Pinball's back in the lineup, and I don't think it's a coincidence that this Argo team lost 3 straight, really without the services of Pinball for all 3 of those games. I'm still not sure how healthy he is. Didn't practice a lot this week, Chris Walby, and he was limping around. He said, no, that's just the tape. I'm okay.
I'll tell you what, if I'm in Toronto's locker room, I've got his grin on my face if he's in there playing. That's the kind of guy he is. He lifts you up spiritually. He's just that extra weapon. You know he's a competitor. And I tell you what, one of the things we talk about, yeah, he's got a lot of yardage on the year, but he's got 18 catches against these guys.
Here's Pinball, straight up the middle, ran into Tom Hips and Stefan Reed, and he is pushed back. Mike Clemens had some success rushing the football in the first meeting against Montreal, 11 carries, 63 yards, but he says that's not what we do.
Well, you know, he can do so many things. He can actually go out and outlet, but here he carries the football. Now look at this. What you got to talk about this. 75, Tom Hips. Here's a guy who did not play last week. He's got cracked ribs. And they'll tell you, the cracked ribs are a lot more painful than broken ribs. He had to take shots before the game. There's a warrior right there, baby.
Hips out of the University of Toronto. It is 2nd down and 8. And Bell to Clements, and he is tackled short of the first down. That's the nickelback, Mark Washington out of Rutgers, stopping Pinball short of the first down.
Well, I tell you what, I am really impressed with the way the defensive backs of Montreal are playing right now. They are giving him the catch. They're getting a nice catch, but what they're doing is securing him. We talked about the yards after the catch. This is just great open field tackling on one of the hardest guys to bring him down. Miss him a little bit, but have enough presence of mind to get around and take his shoe just for good measure.
Old Prefontaine punting the football away. Davis and Haskins, and this will be Thomas Haskins. And a short return for Haskins. Montreal with the lead in the football when we come back. There's Glenn Young making just his 2nd start at outside linebacker for the Argos. He's in there specifically to stop Mike Pringle in the run. Here's Montreal leading 4 minutes into the game without Mike Pringle touching the ball.
Clear the pass. That's right. That's one of the things they got to do. They can't be one-dimensional. Something that Toronto, on the other hand, is being accused of all year long.
Ball at the Alouette 38-yard line. First down, Montreal. And here's Mike Pringle. Straight up the middle to the 41. And a gain of 3 for Pringle on his first carry of the game. He was held to just 52 yards last year in the playoff game against Toronto.
Well, you talked about Young and his importance as a defensive linebacker. Take a look at him here. Skating down the offensive line, reading the block, coming in, helping out on the tackle. That's what they got him there for. He's a big guy. Here's a guy 6'3", 230. He can play.
2nd down, Pringle out of the backfield, and he is collared short of the first down. It'll be close. Good sure tackle by Kelly Wiltshire, the other outside linebacker. And Dave Ritchie may have his first decision of the game, pending the spot of the football. But they will have a measure.
You know, Chris, you got to like what they're doing. I mean, here we came. We've talked all week. I mean, we've just talked. We're blue in the face about Pringle running the ball, the offensive line. What does he do? He's come out. They've run it once. He's thrown it 3 times. That is just another way to get Pringle involved. Throw a little outlet pass to him. Let him work via the reception. Smart football.
So a foot short. And Dave Ritchie, who's usually on the conservative side, will likely leave in the offense to go for it with that guy in the backfield. A foot shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, that's one of the things they say. You should never get stopped this close to a first down marker. With these big hogs in front of them, they better not.
And will do it himself. And you could hear just the contact as the lines converge right up here.
Well, I tell you what, that is just, as you say, contact. These are the guys that were responsible last play for trying to stop him on the short yardage. Demetrius Maxey, who's played like a demon the whole year against these Alouettes, had great games. Michael O'Shea, a lot of you made about the addition of Glenn Young, but here's a guy, Michael O'Shea, not only got a lot of tackles during the year, but led the team in special teams tackles, plays everywhere. And of course, Lester Smith, really a key factor in that secondary.
First down, Ham throwing, Armstrong open, and he's got it in front of Adrian Smith at the Argo 40. And Ham and Armstrong are on the same wavelength here in the first quarter.
Well, we talked about the fact that he hasn't done much, and I don't mean that to say that negatively. He wasn't used much the prior games, but I tell you what, Tracy is loving going to him again. This is shades of the old Baltimore days where these two guys hooked up many a time. As a matter of fact, against us a lot of times and beat us. This is just a nice job of pass protection by OKK, keeping him out, allowing Tracy the time to find the receiver.
First down at the Argo 40. Montreal moving again. Here's Pringle left side. And Mike across the 35. Has 5 to 6 yards before he's wrestled down by Demetrius Maxey.
Well, they do so many things. We talked in the opening about the fact that they can run the counter. Here's just a straight off tackle play. Glenn Young's going to come in here, fights off the block of Michael Souls, but you know what? You might say, looking at that, wow, you know, that Glenn Young did it, but all Michael Souls has to do is distract him enough, get into him enough, because Pringle will find the opening.
2nd and 4, Alouettes. Ham goes to the air again, and one hops the pass intended for Armstrong, and Tracy ends up on his backside. He was decked by Todrick McIntosh, and a flag is down.
Well, he's not going to be happy, Don Matthews, about this.
Major foul, roughing the passer, Toronto number 94, first down.
One of the things that Don Matthews said yesterday that really bothered him was the penalties have increased. He didn't say just increased, he said increased dramatically during this losing streak. They're picking up bad habits. This is, I mean, the ball is gone. It's one thing to run into him, grab, touch his jersey. Bad penalty and puts the team in a bad situation.
And 156 yards in penalties last week in Winnipeg, and Matthews said that was inexcusable. First down, Montreal. And Ham, end zone, Armstrong, touchdown! Tracy Ham is hooked up with Chris Armstrong for the second time in this first quarter for a Montreal major.
Well, this is again another, he's just having an outstanding day, Chris Armstrong and Tracy Ham both. He loves him, he knows he's hot right now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Last time he took it to the corner, this time he takes it to the corner and breaks it back the opposite way to the post. Just a nice job of reading the coverage and finding the opening by Chris Armstrong.
Terry Baker adds the extra point, and the Argonauts must be a little shell-shocked right now. Chris Armstrong with a pair of touchdowns in the opening quarter, and Montreal staked to a 14-0 lead.
Craft, available at Canadian Tire.
Meet Cody, a member of the War Amps Champ program. Cody lost his arm in a machinery accident. Cody knows the world is full of dangers to avoid. He has a message for all kids.
Play safe.
The CFL is a proud supporter of the War Amps Play Safe program.
Well, a dramatic departure from the last time these two teams met here at Percival Molson Stadium in Montreal.
My daughters, love y'all. Y'all too.
Chris Armstrong, 4 catches, 82 yards in the first 7 minutes of the football game, and 2 touchdowns. Here's Tony Smith for Toronto. Smith gets outside and is upended at the 37-yard line.
You know, Chris, you talked about Chris Armstrong, the fact he's only had a couple catches in previous games, but he's got statistics right now that most receivers would be happy with in a full game. I mean, he just fakes like he's going to go to the corner, turns it back inside, gets Marcelo Simmons, who is converted to a linebacker, playing defensive back. It's his first time at defensive back. He just gets him turned around, loses him. Nice throw, and again, we've got to talk about this. The fact that Tracy Ham is on the money.
First down, and the Argos really in a hole, and Clements gets a couple. Tracy Gravely moves up from his outside linebacker position. Didn't play against Hamilton last week, nursing some nagging injuries, but Gravely had led the Alouettes in tackles on the season.
Well, he certainly has, but I tell you again, Tom Hips, here's a guy that's got shots in for the cracked ribs, is just doing a great job of getting to the offensive line and creating havoc.
Chris Kerwin Bell was adamant this week that he could move the football against Montreal. He said, I passed for over 70% in every meeting, 9 touchdowns, only 1 interception, but he can't get it done right now. Doug Peterson has the sack, and that's the 14th time this season Montreal has come up with a sack of Kerwin Bell.
Well, Doug Peterson is a story. I mean, he is fired up. This whole team is fired up. Here's a guy who's got 6 quarterback sacks. You know what? Here's an interesting thing. He's got 5 of his 6 quarterback sacks against Toronto. He loves to play against these guys. He comes hard all the time. Do not take a playoff against this guy. Dave Ritchie says he's the best lineman, bar anything. American, Hawaiian, Canadian, he's the man.
And the Argos are forced to punt again. And Montreal is in a position here to put this one out of reach early. Tyree Davis on the return, and he's drilled backwards. And a 5-yard return after a 49-yard Prefontaine punt. That was a big hit by Antonius Bonner.
Well, I think what they're waiting right now is they just got, Toronto has to sit back, take a deep breath. They're almost so wound up right now that they're making mistakes. They need to sit back and say, hey, it's just another football game. Just because it's a playoff game, yeah, that adds some pressure, but we still got to play the same guys for 60 minutes. Get organized, take another rethink of it, go out there and play like they can play and try and make a game there.
Zumo KK, one of the guys that has paved the way for over 2,000 yards for number 27, who has the football. Mike Pringle drives his way to the 39, and a gain of 3. Argos have contained 27, but it's the passing game right now that has put Montreal to this 14-point lead.
Well, I bet you if you looked at all the stats for all the games, to see Mike Pringle with only 2 carries, you know, 9 minutes into a football game, you'd say, wow, something's a little different right here. Wonder what the score is. You'd be very surprised to see they're throwing the ball so effectively.
2nd and 7 for the Alouettes. Ham steps out of the pocket. He's over the line as he throws to Armstrong. Let's see. Armstrong dropped the ball, and Donald Smith is on it. Flag is down as Tracy Ham crossed the line of scrimmage before delivering the football.
Well, that's a good call, Chris, and that's exactly what they're going to call. As the officials huddle, I'm sure Toronto's going to decline the football.
Illegal forward pass. Montreal number 8. Decline. First down.
So the Alouettes turn it over on the fumble by Armstrong. Here's Ham about a step over the line as he hooked up with Armstrong.
And you can hear everybody in the stands yelling, go, run with it, because he had the opening there as well. He could have took off with the football. But
we were here 2 weeks ago, and he did just that, and Winnipeg knocked him out of the game. And I think Tracy Ham's going to do everything he can to restrain himself in the running department. Kerwin Bell has some problems he has to solve here in the early going. Takes to Clements, the shovel pass not there, and now an incompletion intended for the pinball. Swift Birch, the former Argo.
Swift Birch does a great job of keeping contained on Kerwin Bell. But we've talked about the other guy, Tom Hips, earlier. Tom Hips comes off his block and follows, shadows, if you would, pinball. Again, they're trying to get pinball involved in the shovel pass, trying to put Swift Birch in a can't-win situation. But the tackle, recognizing it, stays with him. Nice job by Tom Hips, allowing Birch to make the commitment to keep Kerwin Bell inside.
2nd and 10. This time, Bell can't find a receiver, and down he goes. Ball's loose, but the whistle had gone. And Swift Birch unloaded on Kerwin Bell. It's the 2nd sack for Montreal. It's been a story all season long, Chris. Kerwin Bell's been battered and beaten up, and the Alouettes are getting to him again today.
And it's the guys you don't normally talk about who are doing it. You're used to talking about Peterson and Pate, but look at this pursuit. Just keep working, go around the horn. It's a long way to run, but if you keep running, a lot of times you're going to see that. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And here you see the other fumble where Glenn Young strips Armstrong of the football. Toronto very lucky on that sack that it was not called a fumble.
So the Argonauts unable to capitalize on the turnover, and they have to punt the ball away again. Tyree Davis from his 23. Davis is speedster, but he's going the wrong way, eludes Donald Smith, and now turns the corner, flag down as he heads up the sidelines. And look at Prefontaine, or Adrian Smith with a big hit. But a flag down will negate the 20-yard Tyree Davis return. Clipping penalty against the Alouettes negates Tyree Davis's 20-yard punt return. There's the punter for the Argos, and we've been amazed at how he loves to get his nose into the action on these special teams.
Well, we saw Troy Westwood of Winnipeg get KO'd, knocked out of the game almost, but here you see Prefontaine actually laying a lick on Irv Smith.
He's one of Walby's Warriors this year. 3:40 to go, first quarter, all Alouettes. Pringle, right side, and Mike Pringle up to the 15-yard line, has 5 more. Glenn Young once again there on the tackle.
Well, that's what they're going to run. You know, they're trying to go to the outside right now. They get behind him. You can see he's got 19 rush yards, Montreal, very uncharacteristic. And of course, look at this stat. Wow, 109 passing yards in the first quarter. They only averaged 300, or 260, excuse me, for a game, so they're well above their seasonal average.
This is a team that's number 1 rushing the ball, number 6 passing this year. And Tracy Ham looked one way, now scrambles the other side. He will take off. Young gets a piece of him as Ham is knocked out of bounds, but gets the first down.
You know, Chris, you know what? I'm just thinking about something that was interestingly said to me yesterday. Pinball actually said, the way we'll have success against Montreal is we want to force Montreal to throw the football. Well, they are forcing Montreal to throw the football, or in effect, Montreal's chosen to throw the football, and they're having all kinds of success. So I think this is kind of going against the old philosophy, because they actually thought that Montreal would not be as strong with the ball in the air.
Those rushing numbers for Tracy Ham, the lowest of his career. Twice a 1,000-yard rusher. 9 times he's had 600 yards or more. He's 8th all-time in the Canadian Football League in the rushing list. But on a gippy knee, we won't see it much. Here's Armstrong again with a catch over the middle. Lester Smith, the safety, brings him down. And Armstrong has about 8 yards on that catch, and he's already close to a 100-yard game.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, you know, Tracy Ham is a guy that knows who's hot. He's going to stay with them, and this is just a crossing pattern. Nice job. Again, the ball is on the money. I mean, Chris Armstrong's not slowing down. He's not reaching back. The ball is right in the arm. He's getting him at full stride. I tell you, when you're on like that, you're in that kind of a rhythm, it could be a long day for the opposing defense.
You know, sometimes you've got to hit rock bottom, and for Chris Armstrong, it might have been last week in Hamilton. Late in the game, didn't mean anything, but he dropped an easy touchdown, and he had mentioned that it characterized the season, too many easy drops, and he's been especially focused in the early going here.
Well, you know, Chris, the sign of a great football player is one who is hardest on himself. and he is hard on himself. He's not been happy with his season production, but he's coming, and he says, you know what? Postseason will take care of that. I'll make you all forget about what I did during the regular season.
Second and about a foot, maybe a free down here for him to go to work, but he just pushes forward and will move the sticks. Well, much of the success of this Alouette team this year is that terrific offensive line, and it's led by Big Azumo Okeke.
We enjoy playing ball together. You know, we've enjoyed this whole year as offensive unit, the offensive line. We're very tight. I think that's what we want to do out there tomorrow, is just have fun and enjoy doing what we're doing out there, because it could be your last game. We just want to go out on a good note and you know, establish the things we've been doing all year, which is running the ball and having fun and hitting people hard.
They are giving no indication that this will be their last game of the year. Mike Pringle, however, has been held in check so far. Don Matthews took every play Pringle has run for the last 8 games, put it on a video, and gave it to every player on the Argos defensive team to watch this week. And at least in stopping Pringle, it looks like that video has paid off.
Well, you know, he's been basically living off the philosophy of gap cancellation. Everybody has to take a certain gap.
Now they're going deep. Tyree Davis, and it's just beyond his outstretched fingertips as Tracy stretches the Argo defense.
And you know what? If you don't get success doing it, but you just hit a key word, you're stretching the defense. You got all the linebackers playing so tight. They're so concerned with stopping Pringle. Get him back. Get him a little depth right now. Then your underneath routes will open up. Armstrong's having a great day, but you still got other receivers out there. You still got Cody. You still got, you know, Jock climbing. So that's the way to get everybody in your offense involved.
Gary Baker to punt. Lester Smith is back. Short punt. Kicking at the Argo 40, and Smith will just cover it and get the penalty marker. 32-yard punt by Terry Baker, and they'll get the no yards. And Harold Nash shaken up on the play. We'll be back to Molson Stadium. A couple of Chris Armstrong touchdowns, and the Alouettes with a 14-0 lead here in the final minute of the first quarter, the Western semifinal. Second half of our CFL on CBC doubleheader. Henry Gizmo Williams and the experience of the Edmonton Eskimos against the hottest team in the Canadian Football League, the BC Lions. And also at halftime of our game, we'll talk to Jeff Garcia, quarterback of the Calgary Stampeders, and Ron Lancaster, the head coach of the Eastern Division regular season winners, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, about what they have seen so far as they assess who they will play next week.
Well, it'll be very interesting. I think they're a little surprised that Toronto has come out as, and I use the word shell-shocked because that's what it seems like. They're trying to force situations right now. And my opinion of what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to get Pinball so involved in the football game right now that they're overly concentrating on him. They're trying to get him involved in it.
Serge Savard in the stands, and he has done a great job rounding up corporate support for this team. It was a year ago, a U2 concert at Olympic Stadium forced the Alouettes out, and they had to come into Little Molson Stadium, and it's turned around the fortunes of the franchise. Great place to watch a football game. Argo's not enjoying the visit so far. There's a pass to Paul Mazzotti, who had 3 of his best 4 games this season against the Alouettes. And he seems to find a lot of success against the zone coverage.
Well, he loves zone, and Matthew said that if they get a lot of zone coverage, watch for this guy to have a big game. And he's just so smart. He's an old veteran who just knows where to break the route off, and he hides. I mean, he's got a highlight film of the whole year, and he's always by the sidelines.
Mazzotti got 6, 2nd and 4 for Bell. Bell dumps it off. There's Clements, nailed at midfield by Stefan Reed, the middle linebacker out of Barrett, BC, but the Argos have a first down. Pinball was saying, Chris, that he feels the key to the Argos' success today is their production on first down, and it hasn't been great so far.
No, they have to get good yardage on first downs to allow them to utilize their whole playbook on second and short. On this particular play, what you gotta love about this is Paul Mazzotti is used as a decoy, comes inside, does a little bit of a rub, allows Pinball to get to the outside, to the flat, and pick up a first down.
Ball at midfield for Kerwin Bell, and the Toronto Argonauts. He got hit as he delivered the football. There is a flag down in the defensive backfield as Swift Birch again got to the quarterback.
Well, Swift Birch come around Willie Williams, and Willie Williams did not play last week. He has been hurt. You wonder if he is 100% right now because...
Major foul, face mask, Montreal number 47, first down.
Stefan Reed called for the face mask, and that will move the ball deeper into Montreal territory.
Well, you can see Bell, and he's taken some shots this whole year. He is, without a doubt in my mind, one of the toughest guys I've ever seen as far as taking the ball, taking the shot, getting up, and stay playing.
Here's Clements underneath, and not much there. Swift Birch again making the tackle on the final play of the opening quarter. The Argos are starting to get on track, but got a tough road here in Montreal to repeating as Grey Cup champions. We're back at Molson Stadium. There's one of the Argo helmets that wasn't stolen yesterday. Apparently 3 or 4 of the team's helmets and some shoulder pads were lifted from the locker room.
Well, there you can see the stats for the first quarter. Obviously, Montreal having the big edge in first downs. Net yards 148 to 9. Very uncharacteristic of a Toronto Argonaut football team. Time of possession very equal, but again, the turnover, the big interception by Baron Miles, the early touchdown by Chris Armstrong, the story.
Not much for Don Matthews to like about the first 15 minutes. 2nd and 9 as we start the second quarter. Bell steps up and delivers incomplete. Nigel Williams well covered, and now a flag real late as Williams looked for the call. Douglas Kraft was in tight coverage.
Well, this is a thing we talked about. You got to play controlled aggression. You can't take penalties that hurt
Forward
the
pass
team.
interference. Montreal number 17, first down.
Kraft, a member of the 95 Cup-winning team with Baltimore, coached by Don Matthews.
And he's just got a hand in there. He's doing a little reaching. The ref. That's one of those that becomes the referee's discretion whether to throw the flag or not. He obviously felt in that play that he was hampering his ability to catch the football.
Argo's 2 biggest plays of this drive have been Montreal penalties. First down. Bell over the middle. There's the crossing pattern to Andre Kerwan. Tripped up by Rashawn Giddings. Kerwan looks like he has a first down at the 16-yard line.
And he's doing a nice job of mixing it up now. He's not trying to force it to 1 or 2 players. He's trying to get everybody else involved.
They've marked the ball, Chris, back at the 17, so it's 2nd and less than a yard, which isn't a bad situation for Kerwin Bell.
This is like a free down. You can play it. A lot of people are expecting a quarterback sneak, but you can also throw the football on this.
6 receivers out, 3 either side. And Bell, left side, and whoa, boy, Swift Birch wrapped him up and drove him back, but they are giving him the first down. But Swift Birch has been a defensive story early.
Well, he's really come to play today. I talked to him before the game, and he is so excited about this game and the opportunity to move on. I mean, Kerwin's been doing this for a couple weeks now. He's going to pretend like he's going to go right behind the big guys. He's going to try and fold it a la Doug Flutie to the outside. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the quickness of Doug Flutie and allows Swift Birch and company, Rashawn Giddings, to come in there and wrap him up.
Started his CFL career with the Argos, 9 sacks this year, a couple against Toronto. First down Argos, and Bell looks in the end zone. Flag on the play as the ball knocked down by Tom Europe, the safety. But another pass interference call looks like it's upcoming.
Illegal contact on an eligible receiver. Montreal number 47, first down.
Stefan Reed, that's the 3rd penalty of the drive against Montreal. The 2nd charge to Reed.
Well, he's just trying to come out there, and let's take a look at some of the stuff on the pitch. You can see Swiftbird's coming, and Willie Williams is going to poke him. Just going to keep blocking him. Gets his hand underneath the mask. An accidental one, but nonetheless, got him in the eye. And I want to see there'd be a little bit of intensity right now. You can see him. He's not the happiest guy with Willie Williams right now.
First and goal from the 8. Early movement on the line, and play is stopped. Dwayne Morgan rather agitated. Offensive tackle of the Argos.
Procedure. Toronto number 58. Still first down.
Chris Giaskis, the only offensive lineman that has been with Toronto for both their Grey Cups.
Well, you can just see he's just going to back out there a little early before the snap count. And a lot of times what Morgan's upset about is he's kind of feeling that, and you're like a gun. You're just, all your twitch fibers are ready to jump, and he jumps when Giaskis jumps.
First and goal from the 13 now. Out of the shotgun, Bell to the end zone, overthrowing Daryl Mitchell. Torrey Hunter was stride for stride with Mookie Mitchell.
Well, nice job of the offensive line picking up the blitz by Stephon Reed coming from the middle. He's trying to get Mitchell. Good cover by Torrey Hunter, staying step for step. The ball still, I don't think Kerwin Bell, Chris, is throwing the ball as effective or as crisp as he needs to right now. It seems like he's still a little out of whack. He's out of rhythm. He's throwing the ball high and it's behind. He hasn't really found where he needs to be right now with the football.
Yeah, nothing downfield so far today. They were 6 for 6 in their last couple of games against Montreal in the red zone. Second and goal. Bell can't find anybody. Now he's got a wide open receiver. Touchdown. Daryl Mitchell, how'd he get open? So untouched, and Bell and Payton now exchanging words. And there is a flag down on the near side of the field, well away from the play.
Well, I tell you what, Kerwin Bell is very upset. Now, after he throws this football, or actually just as he's throwing the football, Alfred Payton takes him down low, high thigh to the knee area, and his legs buckle. And this is where a lot of times when you're playing on artificial turf, your knees...
Illegal contact on an eligible receiver, Montreal number 17, decline, touchdown.
Your knees will not withstand it. They get stuck. And I tell you what, he's very lucky, Kerwin Bell, of not getting his knees blown out in this. He avoids the tackle by Charbonneau, goes outside. As he throws the football, you can see the knee buckles there. Ala Joe Theismann, that's ugly. And he's very football. We talked about the toughness of Kerwin Bell, but one of the things, he's not going to say nothing about it. He's going to get up there, and he's going to start telling people, hey, his offensive line, hey, let's start fighting fire with fire. Get into these guys' faces. Get fired up. And maybe that's what they need right now, because they do a nice job of throwing a touchdown.
Well, a critical drive by the Argos to get back in the football game. It was sparked by 3 Montreal penalties, and then Bell hooks up with Mitchell in the end zone.
The CFL on CBC. The road to the Grey Cup.
Touchdown pass thrown by Kerwin Bell against the Montreal Alouettes this season as he finds Daryl Mitchell wide open in the end zone.
Well, that is all Kerwin Bell, because the fact is he eludes the rush of Charbonneau, gets to the outside, enough presence of mind to find somebody. Now he throws a touchdown, but look at this. This is late. I'm sorry. This is late and it's low. It's a low hit on the quarterback, and you'll wonder sometimes, are they not trying to put him out of the game, Chris?
They were accused of trying to put Bell out of the last meeting at Skydome. Alfred Payton was in the middle of that. Here's Thomas Haskins from the 20. And Mike O'Shea downfield hard, and he makes the tackle. But let's get back to Payton and Bell. Is that a cheap shot?
Well, I tell you what, I'm very surprised, first off, that he hit him because of the fact the ball was gone. Now, I talked to Alfred before the game, and he said, you know, he thought the referees were throwing the flags a little bit too much of a regular basis as far as protecting the quarterback. But on that particular occasion, where there was no flag, that should have been a flag. It was late, and it was, in my opinion, a little bit low of a tackle, because it looked like he tried to throw a shoulder pad into his knees, and you saw the knee buckle. Very, very dangerous.
So now the Alouettes will try to answer back. They're in a football game now. 7-point lead. Pringle left side. Souls leads the blocking, but Eric Johnson slid through and makes the tackle. And again, the Argos are holding Mike Pringle in check. Let's have one more look at the hit on Bell by Alfred Payton.
Well, he just sits here, you know, and I mean, this is nice. You guys now watch, the ball's gone, and I mean, that is right at the knee joint, and unless you're Gumby, your legs aren't going to bend that much. Very fortunate to still be there.
2nd and 9, Montreal. Just a 1-yard pickup by Pringle. Ham pumped a couple of times. Armstrong crosses, and Donald Smith is there and nails him after a short gain, maybe a couple. And it will be 3rd down, and for the first time today, you can feel the momentum shift Toronto's way.
You know, Chris, I was just going to say the same thing. You could just feel like, you know, we talked about Toronto going back as a group, taking a collective sigh, getting reorganized, refocused to what they have to do here to get back in the football game. They did that. They drove the football, albeit aided by 2 penalties by Montreal, but they are now back in the football game, and their defense has done what they have to do by giving them the ball back, and they're probably going to get it in good field position.
Yeah, you can just sense the Argo bench starting to pick up. Baker on 3rd down. Again, bad kick, and this one with a little backspin, and look at the field position that the Argos are going to have. This ball is going to be marked out around the 40-yard line. Cup leading to Winnipeg on November the 22nd. The folks in Winnipeg did such an outstanding job in '91, and for sure it will be the same again on November the 22nd. And of course, Grey Cup week, Terry Baker's last punt, 6 yards, and that really has fueled the fire of this Argo momentum. There's Pinball Clements finding some running room across the 40-yard line down to the 39. Pinball with 5 or 6 yards. Reed the stop.
Well, you know how we talked about how quick emotions can swing, and I mean, you get stopped, that's one thing, but then to have a punt take that bounce and move back and come back into your own territory and put the defense in a hole right off the bat where they have potential to kick a field goal right off the bat, this is not something you want.
Wheels turning at both benches. 2nd and 5. Bell slips, delivers, and that one incomplete. And that Doug Peterson, who got his hands on the football, dropping into coverage. The interior lineman, how about that range?
Well, he said he wasn't getting enough recognition as a defensive lineman. He wants to show that he can do a lot of different things. This is all scripted. This is all pre-planned. You got little trips. He's just going to come outside. Kasim Azadi's going to come fold underneath. And Peterson might have to work on the hands, but a great job of doing linebacker depth, dropping in front of him. And that's what you got to do. They're just throwing different wrinkles at him.
And cue Carlos Huerta back in the CFL. He was the kicker for Don Matthews in '95 for Baltimore. Kicked a 53-yarder in the Grey Cup game, and over 2 years was 78.5% efficient. This from the 47, and Carlos Huerta makes it. So the addition of Huerta is a good one in the early going for Toronto as they close the gap. It's now 14-10, and the advantage kicking game swings into Toronto's favor.
Well, that's a big kick. And you know what? One of the things that I had an opportunity to do, and to talk to him before the game, and he really felt that he had an opportunity to go down south and wasn't given that a fair shake, but he's just so happy to be back here right now.
When that scenario comes up, I have to find the focus then, and I've failed at doing it, just like every athlete has. I've missed the kick. I've hit the upright on an important kick, but I've nailed a whole bunch. I don't feel like it's going to be any different tomorrow than it has in the past. Can I guarantee you that I'll make the kick? Absolutely not.
Well, he was playing in the Arena League and the Flag Football League in Las Vegas last week, kicking the ball. Don Matthews was a little sensitive about that. He says, what difference does it make if it's flag football? He's kicking the ball.
Well, actually, he said that he was kicking into narrower goalposts. and then coming up to the CFL where the posts are much wider, that he should have a greater opportunity to put him through.
Now, Chris, it's 14-10 now, and Montreal, although they have the lead, is not getting any production on the ground from Mike Pringle.
No, but we know the characteristic, the history of this team, and that is they will not be dismayed by it. They'll keep putting it in his hands. If you look at his stats first half over the year, he hasn't really had a great first half. He seems to break out after repeated efforts in the second half.
2nd and 7 after that 3-yard carry by Pringle. Ham, great protection. Now, scrambles out and has Souls. And Michael Souls lunges over the 45 for a first down, and that's a big first down for the Alouettes, the way the momentum of this game had swung.
Very big. And I tell you what, the offensive line gave Tracy Ham all day to find Michael Souls leaking out of the backfield. He originally looked at Pringle coming across the middle, decided not to. Look at the protection. This is just excellent. He's got all the time in the world. Nice job of Rizuno Akeke.
Now Ham changing the pace, operating without a huddle. Sidestepped a sack and throws it out of bounds over the head of the intended receiver, Mac Cody, who returns to the lineup. That was Maurice Miller breathing fire down on Tracy Ham.
Well, they tried to get Tracy Ham out in a half roll, bring the pull left guard of Pierre Vercheville out there. The defensive lineman counters by swimming inside of him, throws the whole rhythm of the play off, and Tracy wisely throws it out of bounds.
So it's 2nd and 10, Alouettes. Ham under the gun, and this time Ham's down and just gets back on the football. Jermaine Haley gets to the quarterback, Tracy Ham, and a big defensive play for the Argonauts.
Well, we talked about this offensive line, but I mean, you got guys on the other side are getting paid as well. And Jermaine Haley does a nice job coming around the block of Pierre Vercheville, stripping the football. And Tracy having enough presence of mind to fall back on the football. It's going to be a big turnover for the Argonauts.
7:37 remaining in the first half. 14-10, and Baker back in looking for a better punt. Line drive punt, this one bouncing his way, and it's a good Alouette bounce. Lester Smith is down at the 23-yard line. That's a 56-yarder by Terry Baker.
Coming up at halftime today, we'll talk live with Hamilton's Ron Lancaster, who's sitting in front of the fireplace with his feet up right now, and Calgary's Jeff Garcia, two gentlemen with more than just a passing interest in the semifinals. And we'll hook up with Edmonton for a quick preview of the Western semifinal, the Eskimos and Lions. All that at halftime.
Here it was 14-0 Montreal at the 7:39 mark of the first quarter, and now 10 straight points by the Toronto Argonauts as Kerwin Bell goes back to work. Here's Pinball dodging one tackle, but Doug Peterson bringing Pinball to the turf right about the line of scrimmage. Stefan Reed in on the swarm as well.
Well, the swarm is very accurate, Chris. That's what you got to do with Pinball. He's going to try and make, and he usually does make the first guy miss. You better have some team support, and they got it on that play and limited the game to 1 yard.
Big Doug Peterson, the native of Fort St. John, BC. And now the fans starting to chant defense. It was almost too easy for Montreal in the early going, but they're in the dogfight now. 2nd and 10. Bell has time and throws complete to Dwayne Dimitrition, and that is close to a first down, near the stick at the 33.
Well, very close to a first down. As a matter of fact, they're going to measure it. But what I like is, I mean, he's using all his tools now. In the beginning, he was trying to force the football to Mitchell, threw it a couple times to him, get Pinball involved right away. Now he's starting to throw it to Kerwin. Here's Dwayne Dimitrition. This is what you want to do. Sits back there, gets nice protection. Willie Williams does a nice job on Swift Bird. And Dimitrition does a nice job of finding the hole, sitting in it, and catching the football. Look, I mean, Chad Folk, he's the extra guy. He's just going to help out. You're only rushing 4. You got 5 offensive linemen. The center will pull out there and help either way. Nice job of the offensive line.
It was short by inches. 3rd down. And the chain's tangled up, and that's going to delay things here on the sidelines.
Well, we're in Montreal. I think they're trying to take a link out of them. That's what they're doing. Make that 10 yards even shorter.
I think in this case, they're trying to stretch it out a little further.
Well, to check that guy's versatility.
Now they're over the football. Third and less than a foot. And Bell driven back by Peterson, but the initial surge should move the sticks.
Well, it always comes down to placement, where the referee thinks your forward progress took it. You can see they marking it. First down. Montreal's defense is making them earn that little yard, though. I tell you what, they're in there tough on the offensive line, and it's a battle in the trench. It's almost like a rugby scrum in there.
It's another thing Kerwin Bell was saying yesterday. We have to know that it's going to take longer drives today. And as you can see, that they're starting to put the first downs together. Again, good protection, and there's Mazzotti coming across. Mark Washington wrestles him down at the 38, and that's a gain of about 5.
You know, Chris, one of the things that happens is as you play a game, when you come out, Montreal's going to throw new wrinkles at you, or whoever's playing. As a result, it takes you a while to figure out what they're doing and adjust your offensive plan accordingly to find out what'll work. You can see Dwayne Morgan do a nice job of Albert Payton, keep to the outside, allowing Kerwin Bell the time to throw on the opposite side of the field. Big Willie Williams working on Swift Birch. I mean, if you're going to be successful, you've got to keep these guys out of your quarterback's face.
2nd and 6. Clements takes the handoff, and he'll be stopped short as he gets to the 42, a couple of yards shy of an Argonaut first down.
Well, nice job of Stephon Reed coming in and really limiting that play. I mean, it's predetermined where it's going to go. Pinball gets ahead of steam and just runs up there, as you can see. Daryl Mitchell, who's been very quiet, uncharacteristically quiet early in this first half. And, you know, they have to get him involved. Last play is just kind of lining up. And, you know, I think sometimes as a receiver, you have to sell that it's going to be a pass every time to pull those guys back and eliminate the chance of those guys coming off you making a tackle.
It's as if the defense has spent all week preparing for Pringle and Mitchell, and other people are going to have to get it done today. Here's Tyree Davis finding a seam, and Kelly Wiltshire makes the tackle. Otherwise, Davis would still be running a 16-yard return. Dave Ritchie's team 25-10-1 over the last 2 years, and good seasons have been ended by Toronto in each of the last 2 seasons. He doesn't want to have it happen a third time in a row. And you look at this team, there's a lot of people that may be playing in their last postseason in the CFL.
That's the big thing. He really, you know, he is a confident team player. He loves his player. He calls
the CFL on CBC. The road to the Grey Cup.
It looked like an Alouette rout in the beginning, but at halftime here at Molson Stadium in Montreal, the Alouettes were in front of the Toronto Argonauts by a score of 24-17. Well, as promised, we have the head coach of the Hamilton Ticats standing by, Ron Lancaster, at his home in Ancaster. And way out there in Calgary, the outstanding quarterback with the Calgary Stampeders, Jeff Garcia. Ronnie, to you first. Kerwin Bell seems to be playing with a lot of emotion. That a good or a bad thing in this situation?
Oh, they play with emotion. You got to have some emotion, but don't get loud about it. You know, don't get in discussions with those defensive guys. They're not your friends, and they never will be. Just kind of, you can get mad, you can do what you want, but just keep it inside.
Ronnie, a quick thought on this first half. Did you expect this?
Oh, yeah, this game's not over, not close to being over. Momentum has been going back and forth, and whoever takes advantage of it is going to try somehow to get control of this game because no one has it right now.
Jeff Garcia, to you in Calgary. As I said, Kerwin Bell playing with a lot of emotion. You've seen other quarterbacks do this. You don't do it that much.
Well, I think it's great to get excited, but, you know, control the excitement. Go back to the huddle, get excited. Don't focus on other players on the other team. That just makes it a negative situation.
Are you surprised at what you've seen so far out of Montreal?
Well, you know, I knew it was going to be a great game. if Toronto eliminates the turnovers, they're probably ahead at this point in the game. So it's going to be a battle in the second half.
Ronnie, back to you. When people in the West talk about the Hamilton Ticats this year, it's usually Danny Mack and that other Flutie, but I think you proved to a lot of people you're more than just those two players.
Well, I think everybody knows that. It takes a lot of guys to win football games. Everybody has a role to play. Our defense has been solid all year, and that was going to be our strong suit going in. Ronnie Williams has run the ball very well, and the big thing that's been overlooked most of the year is our offensive line. They've done a great job. So it is a team sport, and that's the way we'd like to keep it.
Jeff Garcia, one of the things that's impressed a lot of people in the West this year, the balance of the Calgary Stampeders.
Well, I think when you have so many tools, so many weapons, you need to utilize those. And we have a great receiving core. We're able to spread the ball out. Kelvin Anderson has added another threat to our team. He's great out of the backfield and running the ball, and they've done a great job. Offensive line has done a great job of giving me time to find those guys. So it's been a great situation here in Calgary.
Jeff, any preference for you who you meet in that Western final, be it the BC Lions, who gave you a pretty good game the other week, or another Battle of Alberta with the Eskimos?
We don't have a preference. I think the main thing is that we have to be focused. We need to go into that game, no matter who we're playing, and be focused on what our goal is, and that's to win the game, go to the Grey Cup. No matter who we play, we're going to be up for it, and that's what we're excited about.
Jeff, does the layoff hurt or help you?
It definitely helps us, I think. We have had some guys that were banged up. It allows them a chance to heal, get better, and we've had 3 great days of practice in the snow, and we're not worrying about the weather. We're ready to go. We're getting hungry over here.
Ronnie Lancaster, to you, the same question. Does the layoff hurt or help?
I think anytime you can avoid playing a game like this that we're seeing today, it's good for you. We'll be ready to play football. We know this. Whoever comes in, we've proven we can beat them, and they've proven they can beat us. So it should be what everybody wants, and that's a heck of a football game, both in the West and in the East.
I know you hate to do this too, but I'll ask you the same question. Is there a preference for the Ticats, either the Alouettes or the Argos?
No, I'm sure if you ask the fans in Hamilton, they'd like to see Toronto, but from a football standpoint, no, both these teams are good. They're well coached. They've had good years. Momentum is the big thing. Throw all that stuff away. It comes down to one game shot. Anybody can win it.
Ronnie Lancaster in Ancaster and Jeff Garcia in Calgary. Thank you very much for joining us in this first half here in Montreal.
My pleasure.
At the end of the first half, it is the Alouettes leading the Toronto Argonauts 24-17. It started as a rout for the Owls, but the Argos have come back and made a game out of it. The Western semifinal is just ahead. It's the BC Lions, a red-hot team against the Eskimos. Now with a preview standing by in Edmonton, Caroline Corey. Caroline?
Well, there's no question, Steve, the Edmonton Eskimos will have their hands full today against the BC Lions. They, of course, being the hottest team in the league coming into this matchup with 6 straight wins in a row. And you might think that the Lions players are getting cocky, but in fact, that's not the case. According to Rush and David Benefield, they're actually walking on eggshells.
We're still a fragile team when it comes to just knowing how far we can go, what we're capable of, and just the way things happen to us during games. We're a confident team, but there's that fragile side to us.
So the Lions actually erring on the side of caution here today, despite being the favorites. That would make the Eskimos underdogs on their home turf here at Commonwealth. It's been a long time since we've seen that, Steve.
Thank you, Caroline. That's the second half of our playoff doubleheader. The Eskimos and Lions. It's 24-17 at the half here at Molson Stadium. Now let's go up to the booth.
Well, Steve, a 7-point lead for the home side. I think Jeff Garcia really hit the nail on the head when he talked about the turnovers. Now Montreal made the Argos pay for a couple of them.
Well, the big time. I mean, obviously when Baron Miles intercepts the first ball thrown, that leads to a Chris Armstrong touchdown. I mean, you can see this is the opening drive. Throws a little high, he's a little wound up still. Baron Miles sitting in center field, makes a nice interception. Then, of course, this is a crucial play right here. And I got to give Montreal credit for the fact that they stayed after the football and recovered it. Torrey Hunter with the touchdown. But as you say, Jeff Garcia did say it. If it wasn't for those 2 turnovers or 2 touchdowns, what you could have is a different ball game right now.
Chris Armstrong with a couple of touchdown catches in that first half, but here's the one for Daryl Mitchell. I thought the Argos showed some resilience as Grey Cup champions here because they were on the ropes early.
Well, Argos have really shown a lot of resilience. They've come back from 14-0. They've come back after Montreal scores a touchdown on a turnover, and they keep driving the football. They were a little tight early on, but I think they're really starting to find their rhythm right now. And as we said earlier, Bell is really mixing it up. He's hitting a lot of receivers. Use your weapons. I mean, you don't play poker with 4 cards. Use them all, baby.
And the Argos were able to really hold Pringle in check, but we've seen him have big second halves. Steve?
Chris, an emotional Kerwin Bell, a key for the Argos in that first half. 24-17, Montreal lead. Second half kickoff in a moment.
Beautiful, crisp November Sunday afternoon here in Montreal at Molson Stadium, ready for the second half between the Toronto Argonauts and the Montreal Alouettes in the Eastern semifinal on the right to play the Hamilton Tiger Cats next week. Underway, Tyree Davis to the 40-yard line. Donald Smith led the surge downfield, a 12-yard return. Alouettes won the opening toss, deferred to the second half, and so Tracy Ham gets a chance to go right back to work after that late field goal in the first half.
Well, we got a close game, and it's evidenced by the stats. I mean, first downs even right across at 14 apiece. Montreal, with the big lead early, but Toronto, as we've talked about, the resilience, moving the ball, getting a rhythm late in the second quarter. Yards passing, 168. Probably the big thing that's a little interesting is the 51-yard rushing by the Alouettes. We expect to see Mike a little bit more. They've done a real good job. He only carried it 9 times, limited to 39. So the gap cancellation defense that Matthews has employed all year long, and he believes very highly in, has done a very good job in the first half of stopping Mike Pringle.
And they just did a very good job of stopping Mike Pringle on the first carry of the second half. Pringle held to a yard there on his first rush, and he has been, that's as well as you can do against Mike Pringle. 2nd and 9, and Ham in some trouble, dumps it off. Michael Souls, first down, and into Toronto territory. Well, that's what Souls brings to the table for you. Not just a good blocking back, but a good receiver.
Well, he's a great blocking back, but the thing is, everybody forgets about Michael Souls. Here's a guy that's primarily used as a lead blocker. Stays in, helps the offensive line protection. Just does a little job of finding an opening. Just sits out there. Nobody's even watching. They say, you know what? We can't even scout Michael Souls because he's never in any film. Catches the football, big first down.
And the players recognize they voted him to the All-Canadian team this year. First down, Ham delivering it low to Armstrong, unable to pick it off the turf. Incomplete.
He was voted to the CFL PA, the Players Association All-Star team, and that is a very good thing to have because it's voted on by the guys you play against and the opposing coaches. So real nice award and accolade for Michael Souls.
Ball at the Argo 52. 2nd and 10. Armstrong has been just about Tracy Ham's only receiver so far today. Look at the time. A lot of steamboats for Ham, and there's Matt Cody. And Cody comes up with a key reception here down to the 31-yard line.
And, you know, we talked about the fact that Kerwin Bell on the opposite side of the field has utilized all his weapons. Well, it's about time to start using Matt Cody. Here's a guy that can do everything for you. He's a game breaker. He's got great speed. As you said, the offensive line allows Tracy Ham the time to look through his primary receiver to finding Matt Cody, who comes up with a great catch.
Bothered by ankle problems most of the year. He had 80 catches 2 years ago in Hamilton. Here's Ham rolling out. Wiltshire tracked him down and forced the throw incomplete, and now we've got a flag. And is Ham being called for intentionally grounding. That ball had to cross the line of scrimmage.
Well, he had to get it to the 31-yard line.
Montreal number 8, 2nd down.
That's an interesting call because, as you say, Chris, all he has to do is, that's the new rule they implemented this year, that all he has to do is make sure the ball crosses the line of scrimmage and he can avoid the sack and he won't get called for intentional grounding. On this one, the referee felt it didn't. Gave him the penalty.
So they spot it back at the Argo 41. It's a loss of 10, 2nd and 20. Ham rolling left. Now unloads downfield, and that one onto the track, well over the head of Tyree Davis. And it's 3rd down.
Well, and you got to give Demetrius Maxey, he just flew by the pin block. What they were trying to do is get Tracy Ham to the outside. They bring the fullback, Michael Souls, in to try and get Maxey. Maxey splits him, puts too much pressure on him. As Mike Pringle's coming back in there, he's got to do it. Now, this is one of those times that you can chop the defensive lineman, and it's legal. Chop him, allow Tracy to get that extra time.
So Terry Baker, 1 for 1 on the day to attempt a 48-yarder. And Terry Baker responds, and that brings the fans to their feet as the Montreal place kicker adds to the Alouette lead.
Course advantage at the Royal Winter Fair. It all begins at 2 Eastern.
Terry Baker with field goals of 38 and 48 yards. Dave Ritchie likes that. And it's a 10-point Montreal lead.
Well, that's the first time they've used the hitch again in the second half right now. What they're going to do is get him involved early again in the offense right now. Mitchell is the guy that can break it for you. They get offensive linemen out there. They get other receivers downfield blocking. He's just going to take a step, come in, catch the football, wait for the blockers. Here they come in there. You can see the receivers trying to open the lane for him. There's Dwayne Demetrician trying to get the big block to free him.
9 yards for Daryl Mitchell. And on second and short, Bell plunges across the 45 for the first down. Just a note on Terry Baker because a lot of focus is on him. The last time these two teams met here, he went 2 for 6. Last year in the playoffs, he missed a late field goal, and the Argos in the final minute drove down and won the game with a touchdown. And Dave Ritchie talked about bringing in Carlos Huerta himself 3 weeks ago.
Ever since we mentioned that, the fact that the pressure was on, he's responded. And in his defense, the game he missed 4 field goals. He hit 2 goal posts, which is like winning the 649. Not very often you're going to do that.
Here's Mitchell again. And he is forced out. Ball at the 52-yard line. And another productive gain for Mitchell with the crossing pattern.
Well, this is the thing we talked about in the opening pack right now. This is his favorite play. He kind of feels his way underneath, tries to find an opening, tries to find some congestion, springs view, and again, he does a nice job of making the catch and picking up some nice first yards.
6 yards for Mitchell that time at 2nd and 4. And we should mention Irv Smith out of the game with the concussion. Here's Bell, and he has the completion of Mitchell again. So a steady diet of Mookie right now to start the second half for Kerwin Bell.
Well, this is a steady diet of Mitchell, as you say, but one of the things is it's a pick play. Dwayne Demetrician goes down, picks the guy, Mitchell comes back underneath. Watch this right now. He comes underneath. There's Demetrician running. All he's doing is creating a little bit of a rub. Gets the opening, nice catch, nice first down. That's working together. That's what your receivers and your slot backs are all working hand in hand.
There goes marching, trailing by 10, and Bell under the gun, falls on the carpet, and Toronto gets back on the football. Jude St. John helping his quarterback out after Bell hit the turf for the 3rd time, and again, boy, he's taken a pounding all season long.
All season. And he just keeps coming back. I mean, I don't want to use any kind of a cliche of the Energizer or anything like that, but I tell you what, on this one, he sees the pressure, he tries to step back away from the pressure, as you say, doesn't pull the ball back in. Swift Birch has got him wrapped up. As he goes down, the ball comes loose. Very, very fortunate that Jude St. John sees the football and beats Tom Hips to it.
Boy, Swift Birch has been a huge factor this afternoon on the defensive line for Montreal. It's 2nd and 21 now, and Bell dumps it underneath. And they get back to the original line of scrimmage with Daryl Mitchell, but not much more.
Well, they pick up 10 yards on that play. Now remember, as you said, Irv Smith's out. Mark Washington now is coming in, and it's his job, but he's sitting back in there. Mitchell knows where he's going. I mean, he's caught so many balls. When he catches 160 footballs in a regular season, he knows where he's going to go. He wants to find the opening. Look at this. He reads it, sits back right down. You see right in front of Tracy Gravel, catches the football, turns it up, picks up 10. Not enough for a first down, but moves the ball in, where they'll punt the ball and hopefully pin Montreal deep.
The pick Noel Prefontaine was cold.
Well, kickers, come on.
He's getting ready for Winnipeg because it's not that cold today.
Well, I tell you what, if he gets that far, he better get a whole lot warmer because it's going to be a chilly in the peg.
Angles that one out and through for a single point, so it's now 27-18 as the Argos get one back with 8:37 to play. Nine-point lead for the home side of the Eastern semifinal. Mike Pringle and the Alouettes go back on offense. And with the lead, do they keep trying to plug away with Pringle despite limited success?
You know what, Chris? You've got to stay with what got you here. You've got to keep working the ball. I know they've had a lot of success throwing it, but stay it on the ground. This is your bread and butter. Keep doing it.
Bread and butter. Here's Pringle. Left side. Glenn Young comes across and makes the tackle, limiting the gain to 3. Glenn Young has certainly made a difference. Native of Scarborough, graduate of Syracuse University, great high school star at Neil McNeil and St. Mike's.
Well, you can see they're just going to take it to the outside. We talked about in the first half, they got the corner sealed. This time, they do a great job of making Pringle run east-west. We talked about that in the opening. He is more effective running north-south, as most running backs are. You get him east-west, you got a chance for pursuit. That time, Glenn Young with a great tackle.
2nd and 7. Ham over the middle and incomplete. Intended for Armstrong, although Souls was also in the neighborhood. And it's 3rd down.
Well, it looked like a little bit of confusion, and that's the first time we've seen evidence of it, where Chris Armstrong kind of looks back at Tracy going, was that to me? This is something you don't want to have happen right now. You've done a lot of things. You've been on the same page, Tracy Ham and Chris Armstrong. But I still think Tracy Ham has got to start using some of his other weapons. You got to start going to Tyree Davis. You got to use jock climbing. You know, if you got to bring Ben Cahoon, who's made some great circus catches all year, bring him in.
Baker's punt again bounces back, and it's played out of touch. The Argos thought there should have been a flag there. Adrian Smith is tied up with Andre Bolduc. But nothing comes of that, and no flag either for no yards. We talked to Don Matthews about the philosophy of stopping Mike Pringle.
Our gap cancellation is what our defensive scheme is to put a person in every gap and only make the play if Pringle tries to go through that gap. It's a very disciplined type of defense, and so we've got to play that type of defense for 60 minutes every time he carries the ball.
And they've done it for 2.5 quarters so far today. Now they're on offense, and Mike Clemens tries the left side, and pinball Clemens bursting into open field, and the Toronto Argonauts with their biggest running play of the day down to the 35-yard line, and Alfred Payton had to come all the way back to haul down the pinball.
Well, we've talked all about Montreal, but let's take a look at this. This is a nice job of point of attack. Chris Joskis, who has been their most consistent offensive lineman all year, does a great job of pulling, getting around to the left side, creating that seam, and that's all that Mike Pinball Clemens needs. It turns into a nice big game.
His longest rush of the year, 28 yards. And the Argos, this time big to Clemens. Here's Mitchell, that hit. And Harold Natch there to drive him out of bounds after a short gain. They'll mark it at the 33, so give Matthews' offense 3 there.
And you know, they always say, hey, as long as we get positive yards, we're going to stay with this play. Because, you know, Mitchell's got the potential to turn a 3-yard gain into a touchdown. And on this thing, what it does also is it stretches the linebackers out.
Chris, that's the 10th catch for Mitchell today, 88 yards, so that's as well as you can contain him with that many receptions. 2nd and 7. Bell, and he misfires intended for Mitchell. And it will be 3rd down in a field goal situation.
Well, field goal situation, but Kerwin Bell's doing the right thing. And one of the things we said was he had to be patient. He's got to take what they give you. They're going to give you the soft zone. They're going to give you the little outs. On this pass, just a bad throw, one of the few from Kerwin Bell, but he throws it behind Mitchell. Otherwise, he could have kept that drive alive and kept going.
Yep, he wants that one back. And instead, Carlos Huerta will come on. Gary Baker, 2 for 2. Huerta has hit on his lone attempt today. This one from just outside the 40. And Carlos Huerta puts it through, so the kickers have done their job so far this afternoon. And it's a 6-point game, 27-21, Montreal.
And you know, the thing that's interesting, Chris, is the fact that, you know, Don Masters is a guy who does a lot of stuff for his players. He feels that he can help any way he will. One of the things he talked to me about, we said, what about Beagles? What are you going to do with them now? He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send this kid, Beagles, to a kicking school. He said, another thing is, you know, Huerta's been in practice for a couple days. He's already giving Beagles kicking tips. He knows he's not here for the long haul, just for a short term. But, I mean, look at the difference already. 2 field goals, 2 opportunities, 6 points. That's all he wanted. After the Winnipeg game last week, where they had 3 opportunities and came away with 3 points on 3 missed field goals, I think that was the final straw. He needed to have somebody in a crucial game who would come up with the clutch kick.
Yeah, Beagles went 0 for 4 in the last 2 games, and it really can take the starch out of a whole team when you drive the football into scoring territory and come away empty-handed.
Well, you know, it's like you say, you want to take positive out of every opportunity, and that means points. And 1 point sometimes won't cut it.
You know, some people perceived it as a Don Matthews gamble, but when you consider what Carlos Huerta has done over his career, it seemed like money in the bank, and it has been so far today. Tyree Davis for the Alouettes. And the Burner Davis out to the 38. And Brendan Rogers tussling with Hinsey Charles, a couple of real good special teams guys in the Canadian Football League. Still to come this afternoon, second half of our doubleheader, the Western Semi from Commonwealth, as the Edmonton Eskimos and BC Lions clash in a battle of 9-9 teams. Mark Lee, Glenn Suter, Caroline Corey will bring you all the action from Commonwealth Stadium later today. We're under 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. Tracy Ham's Alouettes have had the lead, but it's a precarious one at best. Pringle. And runs into Jermaine Haley as he crossed the 40 to the 42. 4 more hard yards for Mike Pringle this afternoon.
Well, I mean, this is what you have to do. Watch O'Keefe. This is a counter. Here he comes around. We talked about him. He's going to pull around, gets a nice block on Glenn Young, pancakes him. But one of the things about a counter is which way is it going? That's right. It's going east-west. It allows backside pursuit to get there, and this time they stuff it for a short gain.
Far cry from the 234 yards. He ran over Toronto in their last meeting. 2nd and 6, Ham, Davis. And Tyree Davis has the catch and a first down at the 50. Strangely enough, though, he caught that ball in front of his teammates, Jock Climbing.
Yeah, there's something definitely got to be fixed there. They should not both be in the same area. The idea is to spread the defense out, get receivers in different locales of the football field, and that time, as you say, Tyree Davis makes the catch right next to Jock Climbing.
You know, after the last series, Chris, we saw Tracy Ham go to the bench, and he had some words for his offense. It's as if he had to step up and straighten some things out. They had the lead, but they haven't been going on all cylinders. Now Pringle, left side, Glenn Young couldn't come up with a tackle, and Pringle has his second first down carry of the afternoon.
Well, we're finally starting to see the counter. We saw it the other way with Birchville and Okeke. This time we see it with Chu and Big Neil Ford coming right into your living room right here. Look at this big man. Here's 360 pounds plus. Gets a nice block on Glenn Young, who tries to go underneath him, and then the rest is Pringle, keeping his balance and fighting for every yard he possibly can.
Mike Pringle with 13 consecutive 100-yard games. It'll be a battle to make it 14 straight. He's got it again, and now cuts back, and down to the Argo 43. 4 more for Pringle. Clock running, 3:40 to go, third quarter.
And this is why you never abandon your run game. This totally just accents what Matthews said. He said, you know what, we've done a great job on him. Last time he had 234 yards. He said, but 25 times that he carried the ball, he only had 100. So we had done the job for a majority of the game. But he says the problem with Pringle is you know he's going to break one on you. You just hope it's not at a crucial time.
Pringle and the offense giving the Montreal defense a break here. Second down, Ham, open receiver, Chris Armstrong. And the Ham-to-Armstrong connection continues to be a big plus for Montreal.
Well, he just gets inside of the linebacker, Kelly Wiltshire, finds the hole, sits down. You can see him right there. He's not going to go all the way out there. Marcelo Simmons behind him, think he's going deep. Nice job of sitting in a hole, nice catch. And of course, it all starts with good pass protection. You can see Neil Fort working on Demetrius Maxey, who's really the leader of that Toronto defense.
Alouettes marching now. First down, Toronto 28-yard line. Pringle. And he stopped behind the line of scrimmage. No problem with the handoff, and Demetrius Maxey stuffs it for a loss.
Well, just a timing thing. I think that Tracy wasn't happy with the handoff, and I mean, they kind of just were a little off key right there. They ran into each other. It's almost like he thought he was going to run in front of him or run in back of him, but you can't run into him. They'll get that situation straightened out right away.
Well, they mark it at the 29, so it's second and just over 10 yards. Here comes the rush. Ham gets it away, wide open. Matt Cody, touchdown. The celebration goes on in the end zone while Tracy Ham is getting attention after delivering the football, and Ham slowly to his feet.
Well, nice job of Tracy Ham of reading the coverage. It's a cover zero. The safety's coming on a blitz. What happens then is nobody's in the middle. Matt Cody takes it up, breaks it into the inside. There you see he's got Marcelo Simmons beat. Nice throw and a touchdown, big play. But again, it all boils down to the fact that Tracy recognized the coverage and threw it where it had to go.
Anthony Calvillo starts to warm up as again Tracy Ham is on the limp. Dave Ritchie said he's been hurt since day 2 of training camp, and that nagging knee injury has kept him out of 5 games this season, and there's cause for concern despite a big touchdown for the Alouettes with 1:42 to go in this third quarter. A 34-21 Montreal lead. Well, Tracy Ham still in discomfort at the bench, but vintage Ham reminds me a lot of his performance in '95 when he led Baltimore to the Grey Cup.
Vintage veteran play, savvy. There's Mike O'Shea coming, number 50. Wiltshire's coming. Look at right here. That guy there is the safety, Lester Smith. He's coming on a blitz, on cover zero blitz. What happens then is there's no safety in the deep part of the field. Cody sees it. Tracy Ham sees it. Those are the 2 guys you want. Cody breaks it into the middle. Touchdown.
29-yard touchdown pass to Matt Cody. They take the reverse, and Tony Smith is upended by Bruno Heppel at the 29-yard line.
Had a nice job of Bruno Heppel not to go with the fake reverse. One of the things they stress on special teams is stay in your lanes as you're covering. Don't get fooled by anything like that, because if you pull over to one way, you're going to create an opening. Nice job. You see Tracy Ham, just as he lets that go, trying to get his balance. Michael Shea, of course, with the momentum, just pushes him back, and his knee catches the turf again as he's trying to step back, and it buckles a little bit.
It's an uphill climb for the Argos again. Over the middle, wide open, and there's Mitchell crashing across midfield into Montreal territory.
Well, I tell you what, Chris, anytime you got guys, these kind of weapons, I mean, Toronto can come back in a hurry. This is just smart play. This is predetermined. He's looking for him. He sees it coming wide open right now, right down the seam. Wide open, gets the ball, and again, it's what he does after he catches it, turns it up for more positive yards. Right away, they're in Montreal territory.
That's his biggest gain of the day, 28 yards.
Big yards, 78 yards after the catch. That's the big thing.
First down, Argos. Here's Nigel Williams with the catch. Tracy Gravely pulls him down, but back-to-back first downs in the final minute of the third quarter.
Now, you know, Chris, what they do, which is really interesting, is they do the hitch pass. where they bring Mitchell in for that ball and he runs it. But they can do it with any players. I mean, he gets great pass protection right here. He throws it out. Instead of Mitchell this time, though, it's Nigel Williams. Getting all your people involved in the game. It allows you to be successful as an offense.
Williams lives here in the offseason in Kirkland. And makes the catch to get the Argos a little closer, but now Bell in some trouble rolling right. Alfred Payton bearing down, and Bell has to throw it into the turf. Now the fans want an intentionally grounding penalty, but again, that's the rule. He got the ball beyond the line of scrimmage.
Well, they want exactly what happened when Tracy Ham threw the football, and they said he didn't throw it over the line of scrimmage and got flagged for intentional grounding. They were trying to do the same thing with Kerwin Bell, but that's what you expect out of your home crowd. You want them to boo every time. That's why they're the 13th man.
We're through 45 minutes of the Eastern semifinal, and the Alouette fans have a lot to cheer about. Anthony Calvillo continues to limber up. It looks like he'll be coming in for Tracy Ham, who just left, along with the medical staff, headed to the Alouette dressing room, and all signs on the bench indicated his afternoon was done.
Well, and you can see him limping off there right now, and if there's any chance, they're not. One of the things you've got to respect in an organization is not put your player in a situation where you jeopardize not only, you know, his career, but his health. So let's take a look at this. Let's get him in there and look at it right now. As we can see the first half or the three-quarter stat mark right now. And you can see what's really surprising is the 258 yards passing by the Alouettes versus the 210 for Toronto. 35 yards rushing for Montreal, but all in all, Toronto's done a very good job of keeping Mike Pringle in check.
2nd and 10. Kerwin Bell dropped the football. Alfred Payton's got it. The third turnover of the game for the Argos, and Montreal comes up with the football.
Well, this is a heartbreaker. The biggest thing that really surprises me is it is the third time that he's dropped the football. One was not his fault. It was a bad snap. He couldn't get a handle on it. But 2 times. One when he was sacked by Swiftburg. This time again, put to the ground, but he drops the football. This is not characteristic of Kerwin Bell. He doesn't have a history of dropping or fumbling the football, but he's done it at crucial times today.
Only Edmonton and Winnipeg turned the ball over more than Toronto. It has cost them all season, and that is an enormous turnover in the opening minute of the fourth quarter. And it puts the ball back in Montreal's offensive hands with Anthony Calvillo at the controls. Why not give it to Mike Pringle? Up to the 46, Pringle gets 3 more. Glenn Young has been hanging off him all day. Jermaine Haley also in on the tackle.
Well, a nice job of the defensive linemen stuffing the lead block. They're trying to pull. Brian Chu has got to get the big block to allow Neil Fort to read him. Chu gets stuffed, makes Mike Pringle turn it up, limit the game.
2nd and 8 for Calvillo and the Alouettes, and he fires, and that one went through. Chris Armstrong incomplete. And we'll join Steve Armitage.
We can tell you this much about Tracy Ham. As you know, he is in the Alouettes dressing room being looked at by the doctors, and the word is a bruised kneecap. Chris, you know how rough that can be on a quarterback. Any athlete, bruised kneecap can be very, very painful.
Well, he has been nursing a bad knee all season long. We wondered why he didn't get the start on Thanksgiving, and Dave Ritchie's just been trying to extend his season into the playoffs and keep him as healthy as possible.
Well, that was one of the reasons that he rested him last week and allowed Anthony Calvillo to play against Hamilton. And Anthony did a really good job last week, so he's had some playing time, and he's got some confidence coming to this game, so it's not like you're playing with somebody who hasn't seen the football field for a while. And that's a big plus for the Montreal Alouettes.
Right now, get a 28-point winter checkup, plus oil, lube, and filter, tire rotation, and a free jug of washer fluid, all for just $29.95. Only at Canadian Tire.
Well, there's still plenty of time left. 13:38. Dave Ritchie's team holding a 13-point advantage. There's Kevin Mason, who is number 4 on the depth chart in the quarterback department for the Alouettes to Dave Ritchie's side. Right now, Anthony Calvillo is the number one guy with Ham in the room, and Kerwin Bell and the Argos now going to work after a 51-yard punt. And there's a ball jarred loose out of the hands of Daryl Mitchell by Harold Nash. I'm going to say Terry Baker delivered a great punt there to drive Toronto back.
It was an excellent punt by Terry Baker. Great coverage by the coverage team of the Alouettes. And they just, Toronto, Kerwin Bell said, hey, we were successful with this play earlier. Just going to try and hit him on the fly. Last time he made the catch, turned into a big game. This time he caught the ball just as he was trying to pull it in. As you say, Harold Nash with a good hit, dislocating the ball from his body.
Now Nash got a start last week on the corner against Hamilton when Douglas Kraft was out, and he's done a good job replacing the injured Herb Smith here. And Tracy Gravely gets to Kerwin Bell.
Well, just a nice job of mixing your defense up. Don't give Kerwin Bell the same look time and time again. That will confuse them. What they did this time, they just bring Tracy Hamley off the corner on a blitz. He comes around, nobody picks him up. As Kerwin's setting to deliver the football, you can see he's going to set, just ready to throw the football. Tracy Gravely comes from the outside. Nice job of sacking him.
Now Tracy Gravely, a 96 All-Canadian who led the CFL in tackles that year. And a finalist for the top defensive player in the Canadian Football League. And this Montreal defense starting to assert itself. Here's Davis on the Argo side of half, and Michael O'Shea drills him right where he caught the football. 33-yard punt. He's back. Tracy Ham out of the dressing room and back onto the field. He missed one series, and that's all.
And that just gives you such an emotional lift as a team when you see your leader playing hurt, but not refusing to throw the towel and staying in there. You just gotta love that.
First down, Montreal. A fake to Pringle, and Donald Smith has Tyree Davis way behind the line of scrimmage back at midfield. Good play by the All-Canadian corner, Donald Smith.
You know, you don't get to mention Donald Smith's name very much in a broadcast. He is a very good cornerback, and a lot of quarterbacks in the league refuse to even throw in his direction, much like Lester Brown when he played with Hamilton. They respect him that much. Very smart, studies play, studies people, and he rarely makes a mistake.
Had an interesting comment before the game. He said of his team's difficulties, we either start to play through the adversity or we'll just lay down. Well, they've been playing through it today, but it's been an uphill battle. Ham behind Matt Cody, incomplete. And it will be third down, and the Argo rush was testing Tracy Ham's knee and his ability to escape the rush.
Well, Jermaine Haley finally came through, and I say that originally he had a lot of protection. I thought the offensive line gave him a pretty good time to throw the football. But what you see, though, is the second effort by Jermaine Haley to finally come in there. This Cody trying to come in the middle, trying to find an opening right there. Ball just thrown a little bit behind him. But the protection from the beginning was good. You can see McIntosh, you can see Young trying to come on a blitz. They got them all stimmied up there, but Jermaine Haley keeps working, finally gets enough pressure to force Tracy to throw the football.
Tracy, or Terry Baker's recovered from that 6-yard punt in the first half. This one end over end, but gets an Alouette bounce to Adrian Smith. And Smith out at the 20. Stephon Reed had to be nimble to get over the signs and not do any damage.
And a nice job of the Argonauts punt return team of setting up a wall and allowing Adrian Smith to get to the outside to pick up extra yards. He picked up a good 12 yards on that return.
Let's join Steve quickly.
Tonight on CBC television, it's Emily of New Moon. Then a star-studded cast performs the Beatles' hits In My Life, George Martin. And singing her greatest hits, Canada's Joni Mitchell takes center stage here on CBC.
That's all coming up after the second half of our doubleheader. Edmonton and BC still to come from Commonwealth. Kerwin Bell just got it away. There's pinball, and he is drilled. Stefan Reed stepped up after the initial contact by Tom Europe. David Archer starting to loosen up at Commonwealth Stadium after an impressive outing last week in his final regular season game, and he's just glad the regular season's over.
Well, that's what they say. You know, the postseason's a new season. He had a great game to end the season. That's what you want to have. He threw for 4 touchdowns. As a team, collectively, they rallied behind him, and that's what you really want to do, is have a solid unit, a solid effort out there.
Tracy Ham's old running mate, Damon Allen, ready to butt heads with the Eskimos. Here's Mitchell. A crossing pattern again, and he's got a first down. And Daryl Mitchell is out of bounds at the 37-yard line. That's his 12th catch of the afternoon.
Well, he's gone through this time and time again. He just comes. I mean, we talk about it. Until they can figure a way to bump him, to keep him from coming across, you can see the defender slips. That even gives him more opportunity to catch the football in the open. And then there's a race, and he's pointing. He's trying to get one block. He feels that if he can get that one block, he can take him down the sideline.
You know, Chris, we got to say something about the Argo defense here, because Montreal had the ball starting in Toronto territory. They turned it back after 2 plays, and now give Toronto a chance here to get back in the game. Bell throwing outside, and it's a catch for Paul Mazzotti.
Paul Mazzotti on the sideline. Again, always by the sideline, always finding the opening, knowing where to stop, knowing to come back to the football. Makes a nice catch in coverage. Protection is excellent. You got the offensive line giving Kerwin Bell the time to throw. You can see Willie, there's Wayne Morgan doing a nice job of not only pass blocking Alfred Payton, but throwing him to the ground just to accent the point.
First and 10, 9:35 to go, 13-point lead for Montreal, and Daryl Mitchell has the ball on another crossing pattern to the 42 of the Alouettes, and Tom Europe, the safety, brings him down.
Well, one of the things, you know, they got lucky the last time. They brought Tracy Gravely on the blitz, trying to disrupt Kerwin Bell's rhythm. Now, if you're going to bring them, they get picked up. You got to have some openings in there right now. He's just going underneath the linebackers, or underneath the DBs, behind the linebackers, finding a nice opening on out, and they're going to have to either bump him off the line of scrimmage, or they can't let him run that free.
17 yards that time for Mitchell. Argos moving the football. There's Pinball unable to bring that in. Looked like Pinball slipped when he made his cut and had trouble adjusting to the ball. And again, he has been on the limp.
Well, we talked about the intensity. It's going to be one in the trenches. You can see again, there he is. He's trying to go high. He can't get in there. That's 2 in a row.
Alfred with 7 knockdowns during the regular season in support of his 16 sacks, which was second in the Canadian Football League behind Joe Montford. 2nd and 10, a big play for the Toronto Argonauts. Bell looked one way and then the other, and incomplete. Looking for Nigel Williams, who felt he was interfered with by Torrey Hunter. And Nigel Williams shows his displeasure with the non-call.
Well, you can't lose your composure out there in this big of a game right now. Don't take an objectionable conduct penalty. Don't blow it. He's up. He's upset with the coverage. He's just going to come off the line. It's almost going to do a la Mitchell, come across the middle. Just going to come inside. The ball is thrown to him, but good coverage on the play by Torrey Hunter.
And Carlos Huerta in to attempt a 48-yard field goal. The lead is 13. And Huerta off the bar, and it is no good. And the ball is dead as Nigel Williams continues to steam on the sidelines. It's a 13-point lead. As you can see, the ball just grazing the upright here, and that means dead ball.
Dead ball, no points, remains a 13-point margin in Montreal's favor.
Nigel Williams' reaction to no call on what he thought was pass interference. Here's Pringle cutting it upfield to close to the 30. 5 yards for Pringle, and Glenn Young again on the stop.
Take another look at why Williams was so upset. We could just see him coming around right here, and I think he's upset about the hand. Torrey Hunter grabbed the left arm. And my apologies to Mr. Williams. He did have a right to be upset. I don't know about taking the helmet off, but that was a miscall.
2nd and 6 for the Alouettes. Ham back at the controls. Here's Armstrong over the middle. And Antonius Bonner brings him down, not before he has the first down. And the first downs now, Chris, will start to become huge with the clock running and 7:22 left on in the fourth quarter.
Exactly, Chris. As you see Chris Armstrong coming across, he does his own version of the crossing pattern. It's just something he's loved, and they've had this in. Actually, they had this in Don Matthews' days when they were in Baltimore. So he would just come across the middle, does a nice job of catching it, and more importantly, getting a first down and using more of the clock.
Don Matthews, well familiar with the offense they're running here because it's quite similar to the one that he had in Baltimore when they won in '95. Tracy Ham was the engineer of that Grey Cup championship. The guy who made the tackle on the flight, Demetrius Maxey, was also a member of that Stallions winning team.
Well, you know, and we've talked about this, the Toronto defense has done a very good job of limiting Mike Pringle in this football game. But Montreal will not abandon the run game, especially if they can get him on track and break one at the right time.
2nd and 7, and in the flat, a one-hopper to Climby. And 3rd down, the Argos will get the football again.
Well, he had the right guy. He knew exactly where he wanted to go. He had Climby wide open. It would have been a first down. But as you say, he skipped the ball to him. And you wonder sometimes how bad that knee is. And by that I mean when you got a plant and throw, sometimes you might take something off the throw, as evidenced by that one right there. It just doesn't get there. Otherwise, they would still be using the clock right now and still have possession of the football.
Dave Ritchie stealing a glimpse of the clock, running at 6:10. Baker's average over 37 yards now, despite the 6-yard punt earlier on. And this is a high boomer back to the 20 for Adrian Smith. Shakes one tackle, but a good downfield swarm by the Alouettes, containing the return to 8 yards after a 49-yard punt. Back at Molson Stadium, Chris Cuthbert, Chris Walby, Steve Armitage, and our CFL on CBC crew. Crunch time now for the defending Grey Cup champions of the last 2 years, 5:52 to play. And down by 13, they've been held to just 4 points here in the second half, as they start from their own 28. Bell looks to the right side, and once again, there's Daryl Mitchell. Boy, they just continue to go to Mitchell, his 14th catch of the day, 12 yards there in front of Harold Nash.
Well, he just reads it so well. He goes down, finds the opening, gets to the yardsticks, knows where he's got to go to move the sticks, comes back, waits for the football. He's right there, turns it back out of bounds. Nice job.
At the 40, Bell goes back right side. There's pinball, and he is drilled. His forward progress to 44 will be 4 yards. Pinball took a lick from Harold Nash, who's done a good job replacing the injured Irv Smith, who left the game with a concussion.
Well, we've seen him come up and lay some hits on people, and he's done a nice job here. And this is just a nice flat pattern. Finds Pinball out in the flat, gives him the ball, hopefully allows him to turn it up, make a move. As you say, Harold Nash comes on and bam.
2nd and 6, Argos in the hurry up and out of the shotgun. Bell. There's Mitchell, and Daryl Mitchell stripped of the football as he stepped out at the 54. So the Argos are stringing together first downs here. Baron Miles taking Mitchell's out.
And they're just doing the same thing. I mean, if he's running a crossing route from left to right, this time he runs it the opposite way. Ball is perfectly thrown over the shoulder. Gets right to the first down marker again. They move the sticks, as you say, and they're utilizing the clock well, allowing them to put some points. But it's getting to the time where they've got to put some points on the board with only 4:58 remaining.
First down, Bell again enjoying good protection, and it again is Daryl Mitchell with the catch with the first down, and at the 44, the Argos are not going to go quietly.
No, and he just finds the opening. It's the same play time and time again. Montreal just sitting back, and they're giving it to him. They're going to have to tighten up that coverage right now. You don't want to be playing a prevent type defense. Yeah, I know you're worried about giving up the big gain to him, but letting him pick away at you like that with the first down catches isn't going to help you either. Now Bell pumps once. He's in a bit of trouble. Ball's loose. Doug Peterson's on it. And the fourth time today, the Montreal defense comes up with the football. Well, the fourth time today, and Swift Birch again going the long way. The offensive line is giving him the time, but he keeps working. Comes around, and just as Bell is going to bring the arm up to throw the football, he sacks him, causes a fumble. Peterson with a huge recovery for the Alouettes. You can see he's just going to pump fake, steps back in. Swift Birch has been all over him all day. This is the second time he's hit him like this. Last time, Kerwin also fumbled the ball, but Jude St. John was Johnny on the spot, recovering it for the Argonauts. This time, not so lucky, as Peterson picks up the fumble.
Hey, baby, we number one, baby.
What an afternoon for Swift Birch. Alouettes now with 4:24 away from completing the victory. And here goes Pringle. A little blood in the water, and they give it to Mike Pringle. Well, you knew they were going to give it to him because whether he gets 10 or he gets 1, in actuality, in this situation, you'd like him to get around 8 so you get second down, and then you can give it to him again and get a first the hard way, just to use more of the clock. But Pringle, as you say, gets a nice job of OKK, allows him to get to the outside, picks up a nice first down. Clock running, 3:50 to go. First down, Alouettes. And fakes, and now rolls right, and just out of the outstretched arms of Chris Armstrong. Well, that's the first time we've seen Tracy Ham reverse his field. Fake like he's going to roll out to the left, reverse his field, come back to the right, hoping to catch somebody asleep on the wide side here and allow Armstrong to come free. Throws a little off the mark, but good coverage nonetheless by the Argonauts. Well, the Argos need a defensive play now. 2nd and 10. Fort looked like he came up early, but Ham is decked. There was a flag down, I think. Neil Fort seemed to move out of his stance early, but no flag and a sack for the Argos. Well, they were all over Tracy Ham. They brought everybody. They got Kelly Wilchar coming through there. Jermaine Haley again with a nice move inside. But as you say, you can see Neil Fort anticipating a snap. Demetrius Maxey is pointing at him all the way. He's not even going to rush the quarterback. Referees didn't catch it. I think everybody kind of half was going live, half wasn't. Everybody came through, sacked Tracy Ham. They got to turn the ball over now. Yeah, this one's not done, but you don't want to see Tracy Ham taking many more shots like that if they're going to Hamilton next week. Terry Baker to punt it away to Lester Smith with under 3 minutes to go. Low line drive, punt. Potential return for Smith, and Tracy Gravely got down there in a hurry to make sure there wasn't much damage done. 12-yard return for Smith after a 36-yard punt. It's still a 13-point lead, less than 3 minutes to go. It's been a record-breaking year for Darryl Mitchell. It has continued today. 16 catches in the game is a new playoff standard in the Canadian Football League. And yet his team trails by 13. Still enough time in the CFL, but they've got to start capitalizing. Here's Clements, that pass long, and Tom Europe with a late hit draws a flag, and boy, that's something they can't give the Argos too many opportunities. I'll tell you, I mean, I'm the first one to tell you what a gentleman Pinball Clements is and what an ambassador of the football he is. But I tell you what, you're coming across here. We talked about, this is a physical game, and I wonder about this. He comes over there, he doesn't catch the football. Tom Muir puts a shoulder into him.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Montreal number 1, first down.
You know, you're taught as a defensive back that as soon as he comes into your territory, whether he catches the football or not, let him know you're there. You can see him. He just comes in there. It's not even that vicious of a hit. It looks worse than it actually is. I don't agree with that call.
Gives him a first down. And Bell in trouble again. Down he goes. And it's Swift Birch who has been the dominant force on defense.
Wow. Has he had a game today or what? You know, I got to wonder if Willie Williams is 100% right now because he's having his work cut out by Swift Birch. But he just keeps coming, and it's like anything. You let anybody get any fire, any belief in what they can do, he just keeps coming. He does the same thing again. Comes around the horn. Nice job. Gets a sack.
Couple of sacks for Birch today. 4 in the game for the Alouettes. 2nd and 14. Andre Kerwan's not going to get to the first down stick. Drilled at the 49 of Montreal.
You know, Chris, one of the things that's interesting about this game, they said to Don, does the fact that you don't run the football hurt you? And I think it does. I think when you start throwing the ball all the time, no matter whether it's in a catch-up position or early, what happens is the defensive linemen just come all the time. They know it's a pass.
Yeah, Kerwin Bell was saying that he's seen secondaries drop into zone before the ball is snapped. And now here we go, 3rd and 4. Last gasp for the Grey Cup champions. And Bell completes the pass to Pinball to keep Toronto alive with 2:01 on the clock. Well, they get a fresh set of downs.
And you just know that Toronto will not go down without a fight. You just know they're going to find a way to keep the drive alive. And they go to Mr. Reliable. You'd think they'd go to Mitchell. No, they go to Mr. Reliable, Pinball Clemens. He just finds an opening, gets the necessary yardage, makes the catch, gets out of bounds.
At 33, Pinball not a huge factor today, but this year, the most yards from scrimmage he's ever had in his career. First down, they fake to Pinball. Bell, and Clements drops the ball. And how rare is that over his distinguished career?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you could use something to signify the way the game has gone for Toronto, this would be it right here. Because, I mean, he's harder on himself than anybody. He's a consummate pro, a great guy. Usually makes the catch, as you say, Chris. This time hits him right in the hands, he drops it. He's just happy it wasn't the last play.
Second and 10 from the Montreal 41. Bell loads it up again. There's Mazzotti, forced out by Nash. That's a first down for Toronto at the Montreal 28, and the 11-year veteran keeps it alive for Toronto. Mazzotti, the top Canadian in the Grey Cup game last year.
Well, one of the things we had last year also is we had the ability of Doug Flutie to improvise, to take off with the football and run, causing the linebackers all kinds of problems. Right now with Kerwin Bell, you know he's going to sit back there and just toss it. Allows you to work your defense differently.
Bell over the middle, incomplete. That one went through the hands of Steve Charbonneau.
I think had Bell hung on to the football a little bit, he would have saw that he had Dwayne Demetricius down the field. Demetricius was wide open toward the goal line. He didn't look that way. He was intent on trying to get the ball to Nigel Williams, but I tell you what, if he would have saw number 28, might have had a touchdown.
Second and 10, a minute 45 left. Brendan Rodgers anxiously looking on. Fans in an uproar here, calling for another defensive play. There's Clements, shakes one, shakes two, and finally they've got him in the grasp. And Baron Miles with the tackle, and they are short of the first down. Third down, Toronto.
Right now, get a 28-point winter checkup, plus oil, lube, and filter, tire rotation, and a free jug of washer fluid, all for just $29.95. Only at Canadian Tire.
Now Demetrius Maxey looking on. It's third down. 5 to go. They've survived one third down gamble on the drive. Bell, they do it again as Andre Kerwan has the catch. at the 15-yard line, and the champs are not done yet.
They're not. They've got at least another 3 downs of football this season. And they do a nice job of protecting Kerwin Bell, allowing him the time to find the open receiver. And he finds Andre Kerwin right over the middle. Nice catch.
One thing they are doing, Chris, is using a lot of time. Clock's running, a minute 15 to go.
Yeah, you're surprised they're not in that hurry-up offense right now.
3 receivers either side. Bell looking in the end zone. Clemens, touchdown. Pinball Clemens with 66 seconds left draws Toronto within a touchdown of the lead.
Well, the fans got deadly silent after that one. I mean, he just found Pinball wide open. Nice job. We thought maybe they should be in the hurry-up offense. Maybe this is why Kerwin Bell didn't want to. He didn't want to have any mistakes. Want to make sure they were all on the same page, but just a nice job of finding him open. Nice catch by Pinball Clemens, and as you say, with 66 seconds left, the convert, we will surely see a short kick.
Huerta to add the extra point, and now it's a 6-point differential.
And the excitement of the short kickoff is something, this is something to watch right here.
Looks like Mike's still upset about the one he dropped. It doesn't matter now. The drive continued, and he got it in.
He got it in, and now that Matthews has got them all over there, he's talking to Huerta, making sure they're all on the same page. So they have an opportunity to try and knock that short kickoff out of bounds or recover it, and give their offense another opportunity to try and go down and take the lead with a touchdown.
Well, that was a gutsy drive by the Argonauts. Twice they faced 3rd down and the end of the season in sight. They converted on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, a 10-play drive, 68 yards, capped by the Clemens touchdown. And they did it in a minute 46, so
they did it very efficiently, and they used everybody again. And as you say, 2 crucial catches, 2 crucial throws to keep the drives alive on 3rd down situations.
Now you wonder, with Carlos Huerta in, how much he's had a chance to practice the short kick that Don Matthews likes to employ.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. You know, he's got everybody lined up. To the bottom of your screen.
They'll load up to the left side, but sometimes they go to the weak side. Adrian Smith's the only man over there. Ground ball loose on the turf, and it looks like the Alouettes got on it. Boy, that was a free ball, and the Argos appeared to have a shot at it.
Well, you know, it was interesting. As he kicked the ball, Brendan Rodgers ran by the ball knowing he couldn't catch it because the ball has to travel at least 10 yards. So he heads up, doesn't touch it. It ends up bouncing off another player, and they almost come up with it. But Montreal, again, Johnny on the spot with the biggest recovery of the game.
And that's the time between Dave Ritchie's team going to the Eastern Final against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. 64 seconds left. Surprise, who gets the ball? And Mike Pringle's still running. Inside the 10-yard line. And for the 14th consecutive week, he's over 100.
Well, you know, we just talked about it. You keep it, they keep giving it to him. He's going to the left, but a nice job of Big Fort wiping the whole right side of the line down. He bounces it back to the outside, runs for daylight, as you say, the biggest run of the game, and probably the most heartbreaking for the Toronto Argonauts.
Did a little high stepping along the way, 38 yards, 20 carries, 125 yards on the day, and we've got an injured Toronto Argonaut down. Well, Dave Ritchie calls him the bull, and the bull started to run wild there. Marcelo Simmons, the injured Argo.
He definitely did, Chris. I mean, I'll tell you what. I've always been impressed with the way they keep pounding the ball away, and even when and give to the Argonauts credit, their defense that came to play today. Matthews was talking about the gap cancellation. They've had some problems the last couple weeks stopping the running game. They just did a great job. Glenn Young came in, made his presence felt today. A lot of those guys just came up and played to their capabilities. You see Marcellus Simmons leaving the football field. But when you got a guy like Mike Pringle and an offensive line like Montreal has, they're going to break one.
Well, the job's not done yet, but the offensive huddle was celebrating there along with the fans here. It's a party atmosphere right now at Molson Stadium. The clock running. 40 seconds to go. First and goal from the 7. Mike Pringle to the 4. And as much as he wants to pound it in, he's going to protect that football.
Well, big time. You're right in the red zone. You can smell the end zone right now. Nice job of Mike O'Shea fighting up the block and coming in and putting a stop on Mike Pringle after a gain of 3 to 4 yards.
And now the timeout is being utilized by the Toronto Argonauts, I believe.
Well, that's a smart move. You still got an opportunity. Even with them down this, you can never lose faith that you'll get the ball through a freak handoff or a fumble. And right now you want to save as much of the clock as you possibly can, just in case you get that opportunity to give Curran-Bell and the Toronto offense one more crack at it.
Well, some people wonder what kind of team would show up from Toronto today after 3 straight losses, demoralized. They got off to a shaky start today, down 14-0, but put up a battle right through today. Dave Ritchie's team 31 seconds away now. Second and goal from the 4. And the Alouettes would like to cap it with an exclamation point. Pringle near the goal line. Touchdown! So Mike Pringle has capped an Eastern semi-final victory for Dave Ritchie and the Alouettes. There's Baker adding the extra point. And despair on the Toronto sidelines. Paul Mazzotti, the senior guy on that Argo team, 11 years, 2 championships in a row. The rain has ended this afternoon.
Well, that picture is worth 1,000 words right there. He's by himself. They've really come well. They've played a hard-fought game. They gave it their all. And I'm thinking, a lot of guys in Montreal right now remember what happened last year. They were in the tough ball game, and all of a sudden, Mike Pinball with 40 seconds left catches the big 58-yard, eliminates their opportunity, or Montreal's opportunity to go to the Cup. And this year is a little reversed. You see Demetrius Maxey kind of shaking hands with everybody. It's been a well-fought game.
Well, you heard Mike Pringle, you can't hold me for a whole game. The Argos did a pretty good job for 59 minutes. But Mike Pringle made his impact on the afternoon to put it away. And the fans all on their feet here in the last game of the year. What's been a successful season for the Alouettes in a new home ballpark. Over 17,000 here this afternoon. And now it's on to the Eastern Final against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, 2 teams that matched records during the regular season, 12-5-1.
And they just had that exciting game last week. And, wow, know, you want to talk a lot about it, the hitting and the intensity of the game we saw where there was nothing supposedly on the line last week. So you can expect some real fireworks next week in Steeltown.
10 seconds left in the championship reign of the Toronto Argonauts. And Glenn Young runs it out. Time for one last play. How long will Tracy Ham's knee be able to hold up? He hopes he's got 2 games left in what's been a brilliant CFL career.
Well, you know what, I think that's everybody's dream is to go out on a winning season right now. You know, there's a lot of speculation, you know, the Michael Souls is retiring, Tracy Ham is considering retirement. All these guys, the dream way to leave the game is winning a victory, a championship. I think that's what you saw Paul Mazzotti earlier, by himself in despair with his head hanging down, knowing the reign of the 2 Grey Cups they've won back-to-back is over, but also saying it's time to reevaluate. Am I going to come back next year? Is this how I want it to end?
Kickoff just about ready to go at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, and a